All right. How are we doing? I just started, so I'm waiting for some more people to show up. So we're doing a hi. How you doing? Doing flat Earth stuff today. I feel like my little disco lights got going on here. So, multi Tom, are you a flat earther? Which one? This one? It says Molon Labe. He's come and take it. It is what King Leonidas in the 300s said to the Persian army whenever they thought they can come take Persia or Greek. So it's also a Second Amendment motto, you know. So I am a Second Amendment enthusiast as well. So my trigger hand has the Molon Labe, and my left hand, which goes to my heart, has my favorite Bible verse on it. And it's Revelation 17:14. And these shall make war against the Lamb, but the Lamb shall overcome, because he is the master of masters and the King of kings, and those who are with him are the called, the chosen, and the faithful. This is Sparta, absolutely. It's starting to be that way right now, isn't it? With all the stuff going on. So just to let everybody know, I'm actually triple streaming right now, so I'm going to keep looking around. So it's going to look like I'm looking at different people. But I have YouTube here, and I have Clapper here, and I have Twitch here. So if I keep looking around, it's because I'm trying to pay attention to all three chats so I don't neglect anybody. Currently, I'm still waiting on people in some of the other chats. I've got nobody on Clapper yet. Actually, I do have somebody on Clapper. So hi, how you guys doing? I just let me know if you guys are interested, like if you're flat Earth or if you're not, and if you are, how you got started. When we get more people in here, I'll get into my little story and how I got started and all that. So it's impossible, Tom. So that means you are a flat earther too. So I have an amazing book that I just got. I'm stirring my tea. It's still too hot to drink. So I have an amazing book I just got. And I haven't even barely cracked it yet because it's huge. But it is The Greatest Lie on Earth by Edward Hendry. I didn't want to say it wrong. The guy is a researcher and an attorney. So he is super knowledgeable, knows his stuff. He knows what is and isn't legal and all that stuff. But the science in here is so cool. Yeah, you know what, Tom, that's true. He said actually everyone's a flat earther because we actually live on a flat earth, and that does make a lot of sense. Very true, but a lot of people don't believe that. There was an old movie, like an old Western or something, and I don't know if you've seen it. A lot of flat earthers have probably seen it. It's like a clip from a movie where this girl in the small Western town was a new age type teacher, and she started teaching the students a globe earth. And they got mad at her and kicked her out of the village because she started teaching the heliocentric model to people. So it was pretty funny. But I was like, oh, how funny is that? And then there's a lot of newspaper articles from late 1800s, early 1900s that talk about how we live on a flat earth. And if you look into some of the I don't want to say religious aspects, because I'm totally Bible based, which is what really solidified the flat earth thing for me. But there are different other religions and ways of worshiping that people do that make them believe more in a heliocentric model. As most people who are into flat earth know, the heliocentric model is based mostly on hypothesis and physics, but it's more like hypothetical physics, like where they put a mathematical problem together and said this could work if only we could figure out this one little portion. They are hiding our creator. Absolutely, Chris. Thank you so much, and welcome to the chat. So yeah, I think there's several reasons for it. You got to think $20 billion a year isn't anything to shake a stick at, right? So that's about how much they're getting for NASA. Now we have Space Force, so up that money. They just turned Patrick Air Force Base into a Space Force base. They just changed it like last week, and they didn't tell anybody, so now it's a Space Force base. But I think I love that the truth is coming out. And I've been saying this so much lately, but it's like your soul knows when there's a truth and when there's an untruth. And I think all of us were so uninterested in what we were learning in school when it comes to history and physics and science and all of that stuff, because we know that it was the truth or not. Like, we didn't know that's what we were feeling. But then once you get a little taste of what the truth tastes like, and you get that feeling like the aha moment, then you understand, like in your soul, what is and isn't the truth. So I really think that this was an eye-opener for me. So we got a few people on. I'll get into it. So nice days. Okay, so for all of you that don't know, I'm triple streaming right now. So I have YouTube, I have Clapper, and I have Twitch. So I have 3 streams going on. So I'm going to keep looking around the 3. So I'm making sure that I get to see all 3 screens, and I can make sure I'm keeping up with the chats. I'm going to try to remember to read out the comments before I reply. That way everyone knows exactly what I'm replying to, so they don't think I'm just crazy and talking to myself. The heart pulls towards the truth, but the head pulls away from it. It's ego, right? I think it's the ego that a lot of people can't pull themselves from. And it's not even that. It's like, it's cognitive dissonance. Like, we're taught something, and then when you learn something that's so opposite of what you've been taught, it's like you don't want to believe it. You don't want to think that you've been lied to. You don't want to think that you were indoctrinated and you didn't know any better, because we all feel like we're too smart for that, but we're not. We only know what we're taught. If nobody told us that we lived on a spinning ball in space, hurtling through the air, we would have never in a million years put that together for ourselves. Because with our own eyes and our own body and our own senses, with our own eyes and our own body and our own senses, we would only sense that we were on a flat Earth, right, with rotating stars and stuff above us. And everybody who studies any kind of astronomy understands how the stars work and where Polaris is. One of my favorite ones lately is how, and I know how they try to explain it away, but it doesn't make any sense. It's retrograde. Okay, so like on a flat Earth with a creator, there's a reason for retrograde. Like, God puts that in there for a reason. But really, how does a planet appear to go backwards for so many months if we're hurtling through space in random chaos? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Yep, CD is a beach. Sorry for slurping my tea. But when I talk a lot, sometimes my live streams go a few hours and my throat gets dry. So Bonanza, yeah, Tom, I think you're right. I was talking about the Western scene, and he said it was probably from an episode of Bonanza. Yep. And so there's a bunch of other stuff I could get into, but we're going to stick to Flat Earth tonight because there's a lot of rabbit holes. Okay, so it was about, I guess, 5 years ago. And there was this guy named Willie who was a friend of mine on Facebook. He was actually a customer of mine. I owned a restaurant. And he was one of our customers. And we became kind of like, friends. And we were Facebook friends. And he started pushing this flat Earth, flat Earth, flat Earth. And I was like, dude, you're crazy. Like, you're making it's nonsense. You're not making any sense whatsoever. And he kept sending me articles and sending me stuff and like trying to get me to get into this. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to shut this sucker up once and for all. I'm going to start researching because that's what I do. And he knows that's what I do. And I said, so I'm going to start researching this stuff. And lo and behold, 2 weeks later, I was sucked into it. I couldn't find anything to disprove him. And I looked at the science, the Coriolis experiment, off the top of my head right now. But anyway, I looked at all these experiments. I looked at the Foucault's pendulum or whatever. Like, I've looked at everything and all the science behind it and how it all works. And it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. So scientifically, like every time there was an argument, there was a counter argument. And the counter argument wasn't just quantum or theoretical mathematics. It was actually like something you could do with your eyes if you have the equipment yourself, and something that other people have done with the equipment because they did have the money to do it. And so if you discredit stuff that people can actually see and do, and like it's tangible, for something that is mathematically possible, like that doesn't make any sense either. But that's what they've been teaching us. I don't know if you guys are familiar with like quantum computing or anything like that. I have a 13-year-old who's dancing for me. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with quantum computing, but there is, all right, type your challenge. I have somebody on Twitch has a challenge for me. So, but anyways, with quantum computing, how that works is like our regular computers are all done in binary, right? So it's ones and zeros. In a quantum computer, they figured out how to get a 1 and a 0 at the same time. So theoretically, but also very possibly, because they've been doing it, a 1 and a 0 can coexist at the same time, kind of like Schrodinger's cat, right? Because once they stop it, it's one or the other. But while it's running, it's both at the same time. And they try to say that because it's both at the same time, that they can go into different dimensions at the same time. And so they can pull resources from other dimensions, which is crazy and creepy, because that means that something and someone from another dimension could have possibly had the same technology and be doing the same thing for us, or to us. And they said that different things could cross through and cross over. And this stuff is kind of crazy. It's kind of a little bit off of flat earth, but it goes in with the quantum stuff like that. You can look it up on YouTube. It's a guy named Geordie Rose, and he's one of the inventors, or one of the head people that started D-Wave. And D-Wave are the big black box quantum computers. And they have moved on since then that quickly from quantum to AI. So that's kind of scary too. Anyway, off the subject. So how did you become a flat earther or not? What's up, Brian? Just to let you guys know, I'll say this a couple times for you guys on YouTube, because they need to know too. I'm triple streaming right now. So I'm streaming on YouTube, on Clapper, and on Twitch. I usually do TikTok, but I was streaming during the inauguration, OAN, and we were all just having a nice little chat, because I don't get ugly in my chat, so we don't cuss and throw fits or anything. My live stream was interrupted suddenly, like disappeared, and I got a notice that I was banned for 30 days. Nobody said anything about why. Someone said it could be copyright because I was streaming a news channel. But if y'all are on TikTok and you see what these, like the political people do, that's all they do. That's all they do, but it's mostly like CNN and like Fox and stuff like that. So I was literally streaming OAN during the inauguration. OAN was not showing the inauguration. They were showing like a tribute to Trump or something like that, because people didn't want to watch that. Like, well, and I mean, not to offend anyone who did, but a lot of people didn't want to. So I had several people watching at the time, and it just poof, gone. So I can't be on TikTok live again until February 19th. And I put an appeal in, and then I went in and put in another appeal, kind of like went into support and stuff like that, to try to see if they could tell me exactly what I was tagged for. It just says community guideline violation. So, okay, well, I had somebody on Twitch, MCE Folo 5, had a challenge for me, but I'm waiting to see if he's still here with his challenge. So Brian, what's up? Nice to see you over here on Clapper. I need to put little signs on top because Clapper and Twitch don't say what they are. No, YouTube, because it says YouTube on it. So how are you all again? 17. So we're going to get into a couple things with the flat earth. I got some flat earth, and like I said, I'm a Bible-based flat earther. Like I'm an ordained minister, and I have and I've been an ordained minister since 2014, which isn't the hardest thing to do. Almost anybody can become ordained, but I did it for different reasons, not just to marry people or whatever. Like I really feel it that I was called to the ministry in my heart. So I have only about, I think September, I have my bachelor's in Bible study. So that's pretty cool. So I will have all of the certifications and stuff to back it up. But it's really neat to be able to go like back to the Bible and to see like thousands of years ago what is literally in the Bible about flat Earth. And there's a lot of people who use like Isaiah 40:22 and they interpret it wrong because they say circle over the earth. Circle's not a sphere, okay? So Chris on YouTube. Sorry guys, Chris on YouTube says, "Oh my gosh, there's a pharmacist named Steven Brandenburg who destroyed a lot of vaccines. They're claiming he's a flat earther and believes that vax are poisons." You see, this is what the media does, though. They'll take one bad thing and they'll say something else that doesn't have anything to do with that and make you crazy for thinking that too. It's bullshit. And I say bad words and I read the Bible. So just, I'm down to earth. I'm a down to earth earther. But yeah, so that's what they do. So they'll say they blamed the AT&T thing on that guy with the RV, right? And they went in there and said, "Oh, he's a conspiracy theorist and he thinks all this stuff and that's why he did it." And they just said the other day, was it yesterday, that they found a car in DC that had like a list of senators' names and like ammunition and stuff in it. So I don't know. They do that all the time, but they'll do that. And I'm a holistic person. Like I've been in like in and out of the medical system for my own health problems for over 20 years. And I decided that they weren't helping me and they weren't doing anything. So I started researching how to help my body without modern medicine. Not to say I don't use it. I had 2 surgeries last year. But I'm not taking any prescription medication. And I will tell you, like 95% of the people who have gone through what I've gone through and have the same chronic illnesses are on a lot of medication. And I'm not. So I have a lot of different beliefs, but a lot of them I try to, that's okay, Tom, just sit there and eat and listen. He said he's just going to sit there and eat and listen. So just to let everybody know, that's what I'm responding to. What's up, Clapper? What's up, Twitch? So I do have a few Flat Earth Bible verses. Kind of want to go over those a little bit, get us something to discuss. And then I'm going to crack this book open and we're going to look at some cool stuff inside there. So when it comes to the Flat Earth Bible verses, one of the first ones that comes up is Chronicles 16:30. And I'm going to read these. "Tremble before him, all the earth. The world is firmly established and it cannot be moved." It cannot be moved. It's firmly established. 1 Samuel 2:8. "He raises the poor from the dust and lifts the needy from the ash heap. He seats them with the princes and has them inherit the throne of honor. For the foundations of the earth are the Lord's. On them he has set the world." A heliocentric globe spinning in outer space wouldn't have foundations. And, people have their own interpretations based on their beliefs, but it says what it says. So, Isaiah 11:12. Next page. "He will raise a banner for the nations and gather the exiles of Israel, and he will assemble the scattered people of Judah from the 4 quarters of the earth." Now, a lot of people are like, well, how can it have 4 quarters or 4 corners if it's a globe model? Well, there are certain flat earth maps that you can actually look closer into, like the one on the book here. It really doesn't show the center very well. On the inside, I might be able to find the picture. But if you look at the top of the older maps, it literally has like where there's supposed to be Mount Meru at the northern peak. And then there's 4 rivers that go out, and it actually quarters the whole earth in 4 directions. So it's pretty cool. My email just kind of popped up on a screen, and I don't know why. So hold on a second. I'm going to try to get that off of here. That's just weird. Like I was supposed to be full screen on YouTube, and Gmail just popped up on half the screen. Sorry about that. Hi, Ice Hot. Thanks for joining on Twitch. Hi, Brian on Clapper. Okay. Isaiah 40:22. Now, this is the big one. This is the one that everybody debates about. It goes back and forth. But if you know, you know, because a lot of people try to say, oh no, it says circle. I don't even have a circle here, but it's like you can cut a circle out of a piece of paper and hold it up, and it's a circle. It's a two-dimensional circle. It's not a sphere. A circle is not a sphere. Anybody who went to art class knows the circle is not a sphere, but a lot of people interpret it differently because we were taught in class to think that the globe is a big circle. It's a big sphere. And from the second you start kindergarten or whatever your youngest grades that you go to school, they literally have globes in the classroom. And that's what they teach you. You know what's funny? I think it was Universal Studios in 1927 or 1929 had their logo was in the 20s. Was it 20s? I think it was in the 20s. And they had their logo, Universal. And it was a globe with the planets, or not with planets, with the continents on it and everything like that. And it ends up being almost the exact same globe that we have today after they go to outer space and get a picture. So it's crazy how the studio was so freaking accurate with their rendition of our planet from outer space that they knew what it looked like in the 20s without even ever going there. Just from the maps they had, they put it together and it was perfect. It matched up exactly. Very, very great work they did. You know. Okay, so Isaiah 40:22. He sits enthroned above the circle of the earth, and its people are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens like a canopy and spreads them out like a tent to live in. And then I do have all of my devices are taken up right now, but there's a website that I really love that I look at for all of my Bible stuff, and it's got the Aramaic, the Hebrew, English, and Greek translations. And the most awesome thing is the Hebrew, the English, and the Greek are all color coded. So you can see exactly which word translates to the English and the Greek from the Hebrew. It's like interlinear. It's so cool. It's called bayithamashiach.com. And I'll get the spelling for that if you guys want. But it's one of my favorite Bible websites of all time. Like it's the most accurate. And you can of course, compare with Strong's Concordance and stuff like that. But then you're referencing back and forth. And this one has every one of them right there. So anytime I have a question, I literally just go to that website. It's amazing. And I found it a few years ago. So like I said, I'm triple streaming right now, just for those of you who don't know, anyone who just joined. I have Clapper, and I have YouTube, and I have Twitch. So if I keep looking around, that's why, because I would usually just talk directly to a screen. But because I have 3 screens going on right now, I want to make sure that I give everybody attention and that I'm not missing any questions or discussions. And I will try to read the questions or the comments out loud so that everybody on the different platforms knows what I'm talking about, so I don't skip over anybody. Job 26:7. He spreads out the northern skies over empty space, and he suspends the earth over nothing. Over nothing. Or don't. Suspends him. Job 26:10. He marks out the horizon on the face of the waters for a boundary between the light and the darkness. Job 28:24. Job's got a lot of these, don't they? For he views the ends of the earth and sees everything under the heavens. Another Job 37:3. He unleashes his lightning beneath the whole heaven and sends it to the ends of the earth. Now this one's really cool. Have you guys ever seen a sprite? It's like a flash of light that comes down from the firmament, and like the scientists aren't going to tell you that's what it is, but once you see the pictures, you'll see it because there's like the dome, and you can see them coming off. And it kind of reminds me of the bumper car carnival rides, where you get into the bumper cars, and when you scrape along the railing, and it creates those little sparks. That's what the sprites remind me of. So it's kind of cool. And like you just kind of, I don't know what to think about, like what it's charging or what it's powering or anything like that. But our whole system is a beautifully created electromagnetic ecosystem. With our the ionic charges and positive and negative ions, and the electromagnetics in our atmosphere and in our own bodies. They don't tell us in biology class that we're electromagnetic. They tell us that we take oxygen to breathe, and that's all that powers our body. When we breathe in, we have to have oxygen, which is true. But you've got to think your ambient air, right, has about 25% oxygen. And when you inhale, you're inhaling 5 to 6% of that. So they just say that's what powers your whole body. But that's not true. Oxygen is what you need to oxygenate your blood and get the oxygen to your organs. But what powers the electricity in your heart? Our bodies create enough electricity every single day to power a truck 20 miles. That's got to come from somewhere. And you've all heard of static electricity, right? So there's static electricity in the air. So when we're breathing in, we're not only breathing in oxygen, we're breathing in and inhaling and taking on the static electricity as well. And that also helps power our bodies. And I'm sure we absorb it through different things, because obviously, like on a windy day, you touch your cat and you zap it, like I do, or something that's metal or something like that, and it hurts really bad. It's just static electricity. Our bodies are amazing. Thank you, Crazy Legs. Nice to see you. Just to let you guys know, I'm triple streaming right now. I've got YouTube, Clapper, and Twitch. So if I'm looking around, that's why. I'm trying to say hi to everybody, make sure I'm commenting and responding to people's comments. And so we're doing Flat Earth right now. I'm kind of chatting in between. I'm going over, thank you. I'm going over Flat Earth Bible verses and stuff like that. And then I'm going to get into the big book. This is my newest book, The Greatest Lie on Earth. This sucker is huge. We're going to get into some cool stuff on that here in a few minutes. I'm just going over some Flat Earth Bible verses while Tom eats. Just kidding. Okay. Okay, so we're on Job 37:3. He unleashes his lightning beneath the whole heaven and sends it to the ends of the earth. And that's what I was talking about with the sprites. Another one, Job's got so many of these in here. Okay, Job 37:18. You can join him in spreading out the skies, hard as a mirror of cast bronze. Isn't that cool? Spreads out the sky. And then certain translations will say that he formed it like how you would pound out like a pan or a dish, a metal one. So it's been formed. It's really cool. Like a cast bronze. Again, the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their splendor. And this is when the devil was tempting Jesus, right? So it's been 40 days and 40 nights. And Jesus hadn't eaten. He was fasting. He was in the wilderness all this time. And the devil comes up to him and he's like, takes him to the highest mountain. And he says, hey, look at all this stuff. And how can you go to the highest mountain and see everything if you're on a globe? It doesn't work that way. But on a flat, no, I don't believe we're all God. I believe we are all created by God, but I don't believe that we are all God. So that was a comment from our clapper up here. But yeah, I don't believe that we are all God. I believe that we can all be instilled with the Holy Spirit, which is from God. And that's kind of a little bit different because you have to be like given the Holy Spirit or accept the Holy Spirit. But I don't believe we are God. I don't believe we are gods. But we do have godlike power if we're given with the Holy Spirit. And what I mean by that is, in the beginning was Word, right? And the Word was sound. And sound is vibration, and vibration is frequency. So what God spoke, He created. What we speak, we create. That's the manifestation you're hearing about now with all this New Age stuff. You can manifest it if you just chant it, mantra, blah, blah, blah. I do believe that we can create what we speak, and especially with the intent behind it. But I think that if you have the right intention, that your, I don't want to say power, but your ability to manifest is going to be much stronger. What part of the Bible, so she said, sorry, I'm not sure. I just read the Bible recently and that's what it said, so I don't know. So just, let me know what verse and then I can look it up and we can go over it together. It's no problem. Have you seen NASA hit the firmament with a rocket? Yes. Well, I don't know if it was NASA, but I saw a video where they did one of those high atmosphere rockets, and it's got all the cameras on it, and it's shooting up into the air like super fast, and then all of a sudden it goes, and they can hear it like it goes underwater, but it was going up, and it was going like super fast, and all of a sudden it comes to almost a complete stop, like it hits a gel or something like that. And it just kind of stops and bounces for a second, and then it just starts falling back down. So it doesn't hit anything like super hard right away. So when it says waters above and waters below, I believe we have a hard firmament. But I was looking into the science behind some of this, and there is a possibility, of course, because we have the gases and liquids, right? But different densities of the air, contents of the gas in the air, and the temperatures of the air, along with your elevation, can actually cause liquid gases to form, or liquids, like almost like a plasma kind of. So I don't know all the technical stuff, but I look into it. So there could be like a jelly, like a plasma, or like some kind of a thick liquid that it hits before the glass, like a protective layer over the glass to keep something from damaging it. Psalm 82:6. All right, let me crack my Bible. I usually use my online one, but I've got all my devices being used up right now. So I'm going to go old school and look this up. So 82:6. We're going to look up Psalm 82:6 real quick. Like a seal, stamped like a seal. That's another Bible verse. It's probably in my list here. But yeah, I have seen that one too. It's like they said, it's smashed under like a seal under wax. And actually, Admiral Byrd, Operation, I don't know which one it was, but Admiral Byrd did his expeditions, and he said it appears that the Earth is flat with turned up edges, almost exactly like what the Bible verse said. And what about the guy? You know, I'm just at a loss for names tonight, you guys. I have like all the information's up there sometimes, and sometimes it comes to me like this, and then sometimes my processor runs a little slow, but it comes out eventually. So I'm looking for Psalm right now, so give me just a moment. Because like I said, I'm going old school with this, so I'm not just like I used to. So, but just to let you guys know, I'm triple streaming right now. So I have YouTube, Clapper, and Twitch. Usually on TikTok, but I was kicked off for a month, so I can't go back on until February 19th, unless they honor my appeal and tell me I didn't do anything wrong. But I just think they didn't want anybody going against Biden. Where is it? Sorry about this. It doesn't usually take me this long to find a verse, but I am talking a lot, so. But I don't want to be boring. Here we go. 82:6. 2:6. And I said, so they do not know, nor they do not understand. They walk about in darkness, and all the foundations of the earth are shaken. I said, you are gods, and all of you are sons of the Most High. Nevertheless, you will die like men and fall like any of the princes. Arise, O God, judge of the earth, for it is you who possesses all nations. That's super cool. And I've got to look into the Hebrew in that, where it says gods, though. Oh gosh, I would love to have my concordance with me. Let me see. I'm going to go into, open a new page here, and tell me if you guys get cut off at all, because I just have my laptop here. So I'm going to click on here and go to my site, because what I'm thinking is where it says you guys are gods, I think the Hebrew word is Elohim, which is a god-like, you know, because in the Hebrew, in the Old Testament, or the Old Testament, it talks about how God is the El of Els. Like, so there is a hierarchy in heaven, is how it's explained in the Bible. Also in the book of Enoch and the books of Jubilee and the last book. So it talks about like hierarchy up in heaven, but there's Elohim and there's a word. So it's like the God, like the gods or baby gods, like, you know, demigods. But then there's God, like the El of El, the kings, the one of all. So I think that might be what they're talking about. So let me check real quick and see if I can find it on here, and then we can find the Hebrew word for it. Yeah, there are a lot of people who die in the Bible. I mean, yeah. But part of the reason for that is that some of those people in the Bible are not people that God himself created. And they don't get into this in a lot of the stuff, and the church doesn't like to talk about it because there's a lot of questions that surround it. And a lot of pastors don't want to talk about it because they don't understand it themselves. Like I said, there's God, and then there's the Elohim, and then you have your fallen angels, and then you have your, like other things. So God's not the only one. God's the only one that's supposed to create. But when you have the fallen angels and then other entities that are trying to play God, they also created beings. So that could be part of that. And there were also like where he went and killed whole villages. And I do understand that, where he wiped out the whole village, like the men, the women, the animals, everything in the Bible. And that seems kind of morbid and twisted, but the purpose behind this, and we just went over this in my Bible school, the purpose behind this is basically cutting the evil off at its root. Because if you leave any of that alive, or spare any of the women and the children and stuff like that, they're going to grow up with the hatred for your people in their hearts as well. So you're just like keeping the seed planted, So that's what the purpose was in the Bible. And there's a reason that God had to get rid of a certain people. And but that's it. They wanted to cut everything off. Like they were even in the Bible, I think it was Saul. He lost his anointment. He was supposed to take the kingdom, and he lost his anointment because he didn't listen to God. God strictly gave them orders to get rid of everything. Okay. And so what he did is he kept the king alive, and he kept some of the virgins alive. And I think some of the livestock, the beautiful, perfect livestock. And he was like, oh, hey, I thought I told you to get rid of everything. And Saul's like, well, I thought we would keep these animals. And I think he was talking to, anyways, he was talking to, see, another name. Anyways, he was talking to the one that God gave him the instructions through. And he says, why didn't you kill everything? He goes, I'm hearing the cows and the sheep, they're supposed to be dead. And he's like, well, I thought I would help us out by keeping some cows for sacrifice and some of these sheep for sacrifice. And I've got the king alive, and we kept him captive. So, that's pretty cool. And he goes, no, it's not cool, because we told you to get rid of all of them. And he goes, God would rather you obeyed him right the first time than to have to offer one of these as sacrifice as an apology. So it's crazy. Again, sorry about the preaching, but I'm trying to talk to everybody at the same time. So just to let everybody know, because I see some more people coming on, I'm triple streaming right now. So I have got Clapper, and I've got Twitch, and I have YouTube. So I'm going to keep looking around to the three here so that I can make sure I'm not missing anybody. And I am currently going to look up on my computer a Bible verse in Hebrew for Crazy Legs up here because they've got me curious. So give me just a moment. Stop talking for a minute so I can look it up. Here it is. 2:6. I'm looking something up, so don't think I'm ignoring anybody. I just have to concentrate for a minute without talking. And Psalms in Hebrew, the word actually is Sefer Telahim. 2, 6. See? Okay. Crazy legs. I was right about the wording. It says, I said, you are Elohim, which translates as to mighty ones, or like I said, baby gods, right? Mighty ones. And all of you are sons of El the Most High. Like I said, El the Most High. It's a hierarchy. So you're right. It does say that you are gods. But this is why it's so important to go back to the Hebrew scripture and to know the difference, because English translation botches the Bible like a lot. So you guys didn't skip anything. You guys heard all that, right? I just want to make sure, because I had to flip off of the YouTube screen for a minute in order to look that up. But yeah, so on that website, if you guys want it, I'm going to reread it to you. It's called bayithamashiach.com, and it's BAYITHAMASHIACH.com. bayithamashiach.com. And it means House of the Messiah. But it's the coolest website ever. If I could show it to you guys, and I can't right now because I'm streaming on that device, but it is so cool. If you go to the website and at the top right, there's a tab that says Colored Scriptures, and you click on that. Yes, no more idolatry. Yep. So if you click on that where it says Colored Scriptures, it tells you the whole Bible in color coded. It's beautiful. Like, I love it. It tells you like the Aramaic to the Hebrew to the English to the Greek. It's amazing. So it's one of the best resources if you're trying to figure out a scripture, because like I said earlier, if you guys might have all been on, but it's like your soul knows when something's a truth and when it's an untruth, right? Because it doesn't sit right with you, or you don't comprehend it, or you don't understand it if it's an untruth, like it's just something uneasy about it. So you want to learn the truth, just like when you said you had a question about that Bible verse and it says that we're gods, but if you say you're gods, it's a blasphemy, right? Well, if you go back to the Hebrew, then you understand. You are Elohim, you are mighty ones, which means we are loved, we are humans. God made us in his image. Okay, so this is why the angels got jealous, and this is why the angels fell and coveted the women of the humans on earth. God made us in his image. So that's why we are like gods. We are Elohim, but we're gods, but we're under the Most High. So we're the Elohim, but under the El of Els. So if that makes sense. But I'm so glad you asked me that, because then I got to learn something too. So that's why I love these discussions and these chats, because it's really cool to kind of learn stuff. And honestly, with Psalm 82:1, seriously, it had another flat earth reference. So that was cool too. So guys, thank you for coming on. I see a couple more people. I'm triple streaming right now. So I'm on YouTube here, Clapper here, and Twitch here. Usually on TikTok, but I'm banned until February 19th because I guess I pissed somebody off. So I'm on there doing my TikToks and stuff like that, but I can't go live. And honestly, that's one of my favorite venues. So NASA hit the rock. Yeah. Okay. So back to some of the verses real quick, and then we'll get into the bigger book. Proverbs 8:27 says, I was there when he set the heavens in place, when he marked out the horizon on the face of the deep. Psalm 75:3. When the earth and all of its people quake, it is I who holds its pillars firm. That's pretty cool, right? The Lord reigns. He is robed in majesty. The Lord is robed in majesty and armed with strength. Indeed, the world is established firm and secure. We are fixed and unmoving. Psalm 104:5. He set the earth on its foundations, and it can never be moved. Revelation 7:1. And honestly, Revelation is kind of one of my favorite books of the Bible. I know it's creepy and all that, but like, I love it. Okay, so after this, I saw 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding back the 4 winds of the earth to prevent any wind from blowing on the land or the sea or any tree. So those are just some of the Bible verses that kind of like lean into the whole flat earth theory. Well, I don't think it's a theory. I think it's a fact, but other people think it's a theory. So you can just leave it like that. Okay, so one of the things I was excited about, like I said earlier, is this book. It's called The Greatest Lie on Earth, and it's huge, but it's awesome. The guy who wrote his name is Edward Hendry, and he is a lawyer and a researcher. And it's so cool because to see somebody with that background kind of put themselves out there into something like this that's so controversial and to actually publish something, it's really cool. So we're gonna permission to post a link, as long as it's not porn. But thank you for asking. As long as it's, nothing that's going to get us in trouble. All right. Making sure I'm paying attention to everybody here. So from cracking this book, I really just kept skim through it until now. So you get to learn it with me. To prove the earth is a what? I didn't see the last part of it. Because it says a definitive way to prove the earth is a /. That's all I see. So it doesn't say the rest of the link. So if you have a title that you can post, that'd be awesome too. And then if you've actually gone to the link and you understand what it's talking about, if you can give me a summary. Okay, cool. It says, is there a definitive way to prove that the Earth is a globe and not flat? If you could summarize it for me and kind of just type it up there real quick, that'd be really awesome, because then we can go over it. All of my devices are occupied with my streams, so I don't have really a way to look anything up. But I would love to know like a little summary of what it's saying. Okay. So even Einstein here. You guys want me to read the introduction? Well, it's a long introduction. Maybe I won't do that. It's like several pages. Yeah, maybe I won't. It's like a lot. Okay. Yeah, I'll read it in my free time. But there's a lot of things. Like I said, I've studied it for, I think, since 2015, so over 6 years now. Like I said, I was trying to disprove somebody, which is the whole reason I got into flat Earth. I never believed in it before. I was raised, just like everybody else was, to believe that we lived on a heliocentric model. But I always had weird, like, questions about it. Like, I always thought something wasn't right. Like, I don't know, something wasn't right about the heliocentric model. I remember being a little kid and being freaked out, thinking that someday that the Earth was going to quit spinning and we were all just going to float up into the air and die. And that was something wasn't right. Like, it didn't feel right. And then once I started getting into the whole flat Earth and reading it and trying to disprove it and disprove it and disprove it, and I couldn't disprove it, but it was like, and then I got more into my Bible study, and I already knew what the Bible had said, but when you're reading the Bible and you have a heliocentric brain, you don't really wrap your head around what the Bible's telling you. So when I got into flat Earth and it was actually being correlated in the Bible, I was like, oh, wow, so this must be something. I know a lot of people, don't believe it. That's okay if you don't. That's fine. But literally, like, I would suggest research both sides of everything. Thanks, Ice Hot. He said he's going to go check it out. But I always think, like, you have to research both sides. And that's what I did. I would go to the flat Earth, and I would go, oh, well, they said this. And then I would research, like, who countered that argument. Well, this experiment. And then, oh, we'll go back to that experiment. And literally until you got to where one couldn't overdo the other one. You had to pick a side eventually because there's no more science, so, but for people who have really looked into it, because I'm not going to put myself out there and look like a crazy person if I haven't done my research. And I know a lot of people who call you crazy, who call you stupid, like, oh no, we were taught this in school. Okay, and just to kind of go off the subject slightly. So I know a lady, I don't know a lady, I saw a video where this woman is sitting there and she's listening in on her kids' school. And it's the distance learning on the computer. And the teacher is literally telling them that Social Security is free money from the government that people get when they're a certain age because it's socialism, because we have a socialist economy. This is what the teachers are teaching right now. And for those of you who don't understand, Social Security comes out of your paycheck every single week if you work at a regular job. If you get a W-2, Social Security comes out of your paycheck. Social Security comes out of your paycheck in order to put into the Social Security fund. And then you pull from that later once you're a certain age and or get disabled and you need to draw from Social Security. But there's two different Social Security funds. Of course, one's for age and one's for disability. But that's why you pay it. It's not free money from the government. And they're telling these kids we're already socialists, so what does it matter? It's crazy. So you can't always believe what your school is telling you. They told us Christopher Columbus discovered America too. I think we all realize that that's a lie. They tell us giants never walked the earth, but there's art proof. There's Christopher Columbus, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, all reference giants. Every single culture and history that they have documents to prove that they discussed and talked about giant people. The Bible talks about giant people. Every culture has dragons, so they're not, some people call them fairy tale creatures, but almost every single culture discusses dragons. The English, the Chinese, right? The Chinese dragons, the English knights with their dragon slayers. So there's a lot of things that they have passed off as myth and fairy tale that were legit history. And I think they're just trying to keep people from knowing some of the truth. Lately, I have been looking into the not heliocentric, the Tartarian empires. Okay, understood, not here to argue. I do not believe in flat earth. The scientific research and evidence is widely available to back that up. It sounds like you are fairly well read. I'd be curious to know what questions you have that are unanswered. There's a lot we know and we don't know, but there's always an opportunity. Well, that's awesome, and thank you so much for being cordial. I am well read, and I try to do a lot of research on something before I open my mouth. So I won't always have the first word, like the right word, when it comes out, but it's there. I don't really have any more questions on it. That's the thing. Like, I have answered all of my questions on it. And then once you understand that physics that they use for outer space is almost all theoretical, nothing's actually proven. And then you go to the NASA website and realize almost every single picture on their website is a composite of data that they have used, artist rendition. There's so many things. There's so many things that are questionable when it comes to NASA and their scientific method. And there's not one thing that they have shown, like even with their Foucault's pendulum and the Coriolis effect, none of those, they set out with those experiments to prove that the Earth was moving, but all they did was prove that it didn't. So, and then also you have, like the flat parts of the Earth, the Nile, the bridges that are miles long that didn't have to account for any kind of curvature when they were doing the steel, the railroads that go thousands of miles and they don't curve the steel ever. Like at some point, there's got to be a slight curvature in all of this in order for it to wrap around a curved Earth, especially if it's, 8 inches? 400 miles or something like that. I don't know. There's the equation. But anyway, it's enough that you should have to compensate for it when you're building bridges and railroads and stuff like that. And they don't. So I'm looking through this book right now while I'm sitting here and reading your comments and talking to you guys. Okay, so because it's a flat Earth, I believe that we are, okay, so let me answer this or read this for everybody who's watching. It says, so question, what is your viewpoint on other objects such as the moon, other planets, and the sun? It's an awesome question. So I believe that we are in, and I don't have a little thing here. So it's kind of like, think of it as like a snow globe, okay? So we're on a flat Earth. I don't think it's completely flat, but we're on a flat Earth. And we have a dome that covers it. And the dome, you can see it in the stars, and you can see it in, when you look up at the sky. And I know they try to tell you that the Earth is moving and the stars are fixed. But like I said, that doesn't compensate for things like retrograde planets and stuff like that. Like, I know what the science says about retrograde, but it doesn't really make sense, because if you're hurtling through space at thousands of miles an hour with all these random objects from a big bang, how does something appear to go backwards temporarily? It just doesn't make any sense. Or how does it slow down or anything like that? Oh, so anyway, so I believe we're a flat Earth. Like this. A flat Earth. And there's a dome over the flat Earth. And there's a couple really cool models that we could look up. I just wish I had another device so I could show you guys. But it's like this. And we're on the flat and there's a dome. And then within the dome, it says right there in the Bible that God set the stars within the firmament. That's why the stars themselves, most of them are fixed and unmoving. But the planets, they are not spherical. I don't believe they are spherical. I believe that they are wandering stars. They're moving stars. And so we live on a giant clock. We live on a giant clock. The sun will tell you the day and the year. The moon will tell you the month and the quarter, or what week you're in, right? So that's the sun and the moon. And the stars will tell you the season, because your stars change every season, which is how you have Polaris up in the sky. And then you have the constellations around Polaris, and depending on what constellations you see at what time of the year tells you what season you're in. So it's really cool. But we live on a giant clock. Like, people don't even realize there's no way that it could be so perfectly calculated and be so freaking random all at the same time. And then you also have perspective when it comes to sunlight, right? Because if we're a ball here and the sun is way out here and it's shining its light on us, it would be like huge direct light on our whole planet, right? Huge direct light on our whole planet. But it's not, because if you look at the pictures of the sun looking through the clouds and stuff, it literally makes like A-frame rays on the ground. You can literally see. And if anybody, like I said, you did art class, you're going to understand perspective. And so perspective would show you that on anything that goes like this, or well, I guess you're on the screen. So like this would be perspective, right? It doesn't mean that this is smaller. It just means it's further away. Perspective. So like if this is a road and you're drawing a road, it's going to tee in. So it's the same thing with light, your light source. So when you're drawing anything with the light source in art class, you've got to draw it with the source coming up. And depending on how close the light source is, it's going to determine the shadow on it. So when you see the sun putting its light on the earth, it's not a direct light like it should be if we were on a heliocentric model and it was 93 million miles away, right? And another thing, do you realize that they just claimed like a few years ago that, oh yeah, hey, well, the moon is actually within our atmosphere, which is weird, right? Because the moon was supposedly way further away and all of a sudden it's within our atmosphere now. And I think they really had to say that, because if you can go pick up a Nikon camera and see the bottom of a crater on the moon, those cameras aren't that good. And if those cameras are that good for that cheap, why are we paying $19 billion a year for NASA? Why can't they just go buy some Nikons? So it's just weird. They had to like backtrack and change that thing too. Also, when it comes to seasons, and the sun and the moon, pretend like this is flat so you guys can see it, right? So your sun is going to rotate around the earth like this. And it's the same size as the moon. It's not the exact, that's the other thing that cracks me up, right? They're trying to say that the sun is 93 million miles away and the moon is now within our atmosphere. And their size difference is just so that they look like the exact same size all the time. That's odd too. Like that's how could that happen if we were randomly spinning through space? So that's just odd. Anyway, so you have your sun that rotates around this way, and it rotates on the outer side at certain times of the year and curls back in and then goes back out different times of the year. And then if you look, there's something called an analemma. And an analemma is what it does in the sky above something. So not only is it going like this, if you guys know what a spirograph is, I had a spirograph when I was a kid, it was the coolest thing. And it would make these little designs depending on the gears that you hooked up to it. It's kind of a lot like how our sun and the moon and the stars work, or sun and the moon. So anyway, so while it's going around like this, right, it's making different loops that you can't really see from the ground. And it takes the whole 365 days in order to make this design. But if you take a picture of the sun in the sky every single day at the exact same time of day, it's going to create an analemma. And an analemma is kind of like an infinity sign, but it's bigger on one than the other. So it's like this. And it's really cool, but it's perfect. Every single year it does the exact same thing. We're on a clock. So it moves around here, like I said. So certain seasons it goes closer to the Arctic outside, which is when Alaska sees its sun. And the reason Alaska has no sun sometimes is because our sun is on its circuit more towards the inside. So this is always north. The center is always north. The Arctic Circle, which is why it's called an Arctic Circle, hello, is always south. Okay? And there's some Bible verses that weren't on my list. And I can't remember the name of the verse specifically off the top of my head, but it said, as far as the east is to the west. As far as the east is to the west. It's eternal. It doesn't stop. As long as you're going this direction, I don't know which one it is on here, but let's just say it's east. As long as you're going this direction, you're going east. And as long as you're going this direction, you're going west. And you will never hit a stopping point. It's always one or the other. All right. Well, somebody posted a message and I was about to read it and they retracted it. So I was just trying to make sure we're on the same page here. Okay, so the same thing with the moon. And then someone asked me the other day, like, so if that's the case, how do you explain eclipses? Well, I don't believe the moon is always responsible for a solar eclipse. I don't know if you guys have heard of the black sun. How they even have a song, "The Black Hole Sun." But I do believe that there is something that we can't see that causes these eclipses, and the eclipses are there for a reason. Like I said, we live on a giant clock. I believe that certain scientists and biblical scholars, or any kind of scholar really that studies this stuff, really knows what that means and how that's supposed to work, because we do live on a giant clock. And then I kind of wonder why some of the people are trying to block out the sunlight now. Black out the sunlight. I don't know if you guys have heard, but Bill Gates and Harvard teamed up to do experiments to block out the sun. So if it's been cloudy in your area the past few years, that means they're spraying crap over you. Let me check in the book here and see if I can find some really cool pictures, so we can get over them. So here's another one. This is off the front of the book. It's just not in color, but it's the same thing. Like I said, they call it the Arctic Circle. So if it's your globe, like we're all used to seeing the globe, and then Antarctica is supposed to be at the bottom, right? At the very bottom, like a little, I'll say for a little butthole, the bottom of the earth. And so what they did is they took this flat earth like this, and then they draped that design over a ball and puckered up this Arctic Circle like a little snowy rectum at the bottom of the globe. Like seriously, just like that. And that's how we get our globe. And if you look at different maps, okay, your flight maps, your real equidistant maps are not the same as the maps on the globe. And the maps on the globe are distorted. The continents are not the same size as they really are. They're not the same distance as they really are. It's all a major distortion to get it to fit on the globe. Not only that, but whoever creates the globe tends to make their nation look a little bit bigger than everybody else's. And so we're in America. So we get our globe is a certain shape, not a certain shape, but a certain size. Our continent is a certain size on the globe. So they make America look way bigger, but America's not way bigger than some places. Like Africa is gigantic, right? People don't realize that. We know that Africa is a big continent, but it's bigger than they say. It's just funny how the distortion, and they don't have it like legit. Like if you look at flight patterns too, like there's certain flights that should be a direct flight if you're just looking at it and you're like, well, why does this flight have to go here and here? Well, because it has to go here and here on a flat map. Like it doesn't make sense. But if you put it on on a globe map, I'm sorry. But if you put it on a flat map, it makes a lot of sense because the distances are way further apart. But on a globe, they're closer together because they had to squeeze it together at the bottom like that. It's really cool. So I'm checking, guys, to see what we got going on here. Okay. Let me go through my book here a little bit, because I have some different graphs and stuff in here too. They also have different experiments and stuff like that in here. Okay, here. This is exactly what I was just talking about. Make sure I got both of these here. Okay, so let me get close so I can make sure you guys all see this. Okay, so this is Sydney, Dubai, and Johannesburg. Okay, so to go from Johannesburg to Sydney on a globe, I don't know if you guys can see. Okay, right here, you have to go up here to Dubai and come all the way back down. But isn't this almost the same as this? So why would you have to go all the way up here for gas and then come back down here? It doesn't make any sense. But if you're on a flat map, if we're on a flat Earth, it's a straight shot through, and Dubai's on the way for a fuel up. Okay, and then if you look at flight times, the flight should be shorter than it is. The distance should be shorter than it is, but it's not, because they're telling people a lie. So that's one of the things you guys can look up when it comes to flat Earth, because it's so funny. Like it's straight up all the way up here and all the way back down for the exact same flight when on a flat map, it's straight through. It literally hits it, bam, like that. And that's just one of the examples. So it's pretty cool. That's funny, I turned right to that. Daytime lunar eclipses. So come on, guys, give me some questions. I know Fodor is doing a good job with questions. And I am interested in your links and stuff like that. And then the other thing is like, okay, so when the Apollo mission landed on the moon, you know, on the light side of the moon is so bright sometimes when we look up at it. Like I looked at it the night before last because we have a full moon, and it was so bright in the sky. How was it not so gleamingly bright that the cameras in the day couldn't compensate for the contrast, or like they just never talked about how bright it was and the reflection and anything like that. It was not as bright as you think it would have been. And then the other thing is, if our moon is little and we're on a big Earth, and then they went to the moon, why would the Earth be little from the moon, like the same size that it is the other way around? It wouldn't be, because if you're on the moon and the Earth is so much bigger than the moon, wouldn't the Earth appear to be gigantic in comparison to you being on the little moon? But it wasn't, right? The Earth they showed in the Apollo mission photos was a little Earth. It wasn't a great big Earth. But if you guys think about it, it should have been, right? Because the Earth is so much bigger than the moon. And it's not distance, because if we're on Earth and the moon is this big, if we're on Earth and it appears small, but we're this big, then you go here, this will still look this big. It shouldn't look tiny. I think they just didn't compensate for some things. And then the fact that they lost every bit of data from every moon mission that ever happened, it doesn't seem logical to me. And then the fact that when you watch a rocket launch, it goes up and then over. They never go up through the atmosphere. You never see footage of it going up into the atmosphere into outer space. You think they would by now have some type of craft or satellite that would record our beautiful rockets shooting up into outer space, but they don't. And if the stars in the Milky Way are so bright here on Earth, especially when you go into a low light area, one of their dark cities, which I would love to go to because I'm a star. I love stars. And go camping like in Utah or something, or in the Nevada desert where you don't have the light pollution. It's so bright. It's so beautiful. How come from outer space that you don't see the stars like that? Like it doesn't show stars. And if we have millions of satellites in outer space, why don't we see those on the image from the International Space Station? Like there are just so many questions. Okay, I have another question here. It is, the Earth being a sphere is the only real approximation as its shape, and people can understand due to context, as it's easily compared by everyday objects, such as a basketball from creating a globe, easier to reproduce. Okay, I'm mumbling, but let me read it out loud so you guys can hear me. The Earth being a sphere is only really an approximation as it is a shape, as it is a shape. Most people can understand that due to context, as it can easily be compared to everyday objects, such as a basketball, and from a perspective of creating a globe, it's easier to reproduce, but helps account for at least some of the distortion you see on maps. Yeah, but then like I'm a researcher, you know, like if those numbers don't add up, I'm like, yeah, but that's not some of the distortion. That was double the distance. If you thought about the Dubai, Sydney, Johannesburg thing, that was double the distance, and it was way out of the way when it should have when it's a straight shot on the flat Earth. And here's the other thing. So it's like saying you're on a pool table and the pool balls are round, so the table has to be round too, right? I mean, just because, and nothing even looks like the sun and the moon are round. Okay, they're round, but there's nothing proving that they're spherical at all. Not at all. We think they're spherical. And the moon is probably the biggest one that makes us think of spheres, just because it turns into a crescent. But if you take a crescent like a dish or even a shallow bowl, and you dip it into a liquid, maybe a dark liquid like the sky, or a blue liquid like a blue sky, it's going to take on a crescent. So if we do have the liquid plasma atmosphere before the firmament dome, like I was talking about earlier, it makes total sense, because if you have your moon as a shallow dish, let's think of it like a super shallow pounded out bowl, and it's concave, not convex. Concave meaning it turns inward and not outward, because people think of it as looking outward. But if you look on Google Earth and you look at craters and pyramids on Google Earth from the top, they almost look like they could be a dome. I mean, like the craters look like they could be a dome, and the pyramids almost look like they could be inverted. It's just a matter of perspective. And they teach you that in art class too. There's different things that you can do. You're like, oh, well, is this one's out or is it in? You don't know unless you trick your brain into thinking one or the other. So it's the same thing. But the Earth, I believe, is concave. Well, not the Earth, I'm sorry, the moon, I believe, is a concave, shallow, not device, but thing. I don't know what to call it, thing. Some people call it, I think it's plasma. I don't think the moon itself is plasma, but that's a really good theory. But I do believe we have some kind of a liquid form of a gel, for lack of a better term, like a liquid gas kind of thing, that the dish dips into and comes out of. And as it does that, it creates the crescent. And it's really cool to kind of think about it that way. And the sun, I honestly believe, is closer than the moon. And that's why you see there are photographs right now, like that you can look up, that they try to suppress, of the moon dipping down into the clouds from like airplanes and rockets and stuff like that. And those are not CGI images. They were actually verified. Like NASA's are mostly CGI. That really, the distance distortion is huge. It's like such a big thing. And that was one of the things that got me too. The Bible versus the distance distortion, the fact that if you came from a childhood up and you weren't taught that you were on a spinning ball, you would never have thought that you were on a spinning ball. Like, who would have thought they're on a spinning freaking ball? You know, somebody, was it Copernicus, came up with this theory way, way, way back and decided to pitch it. And you got to know, like, the people who are in charge are the ones that are going to push their agenda. And they're hiding a creator too. Like, the mathematical probability that we are here by accident, you can't even quantify that. Like, they try to hide that really well, but you can't even quantify that. And I think that's the other reason they're hiding giants, because if they openly spoke about giants, then they would have to talk about how we devolve from monkeys to giant people back to us, and they'd have to come up with a whole new theory. So I think they decided to scrap them all together, and that's why the Smithsonian started picking them all up in the 1800s and the early 1900s, when people started building farms and digging their farmlands and excavating for homes and stuff like that. They started finding those giant skeletons. The Smithsonian would come in and confiscate the skeletons, and you'd never hear from them again. And they still, to this day, say that they don't know anything about that. But there are newspaper records all over the place. Well, not all over the place anymore, because they're getting harder to find. But there were a lot of newspaper records, and some people have copies of these newspaper records that they took off of the film strips from different records. But they were talking about how, you know, they would find these giant skeletons. And then there was one back in the early 1800s where they found, is it early? Yeah, where they found, or the mid 1800s, they found a crashed ship of some sort. And everything in the beings inside the ship were dead. And so they buried them like they would any other grave. And the story got out in the newspaper, and somebody shows up from the government and takes everything with them. So that was really weird too. I don't believe in aliens because I don't believe in outer space. I do believe in biblical stuff. So I believe that aliens are, if they are of God, it doesn't say in the Bible that they have beings flying around in different craft. So I think any aliens or any beings they try to pass off as aliens anytime in the future, especially from the government, are demonic entities. And then especially after all the quantum stuff, I don't believe that. Because they're getting too good. They're getting too good at hiding stuff. They're getting too good at CGI. They're getting too good at making people not look like who they are. They're getting too good at the deception. And I think another reason, like, there's so many different reasons for masks, but I think part of the reason for masks is to hide identity of different people and beings. And I also think it's political, because the soldiers are not our soldiers. The soldiers are more likely to shoot on somebody that's wearing a mask, because it takes the humanity off of them, so they can't see their face. So that sucks. Celia already belonged to God. Crazy ladies. All right, I'm just making sure, just checking on everybody. Just to let you guys know, we are streaming. I'm triple streaming right now. So I have YouTube, and I have Twitch, and I have Clapper. So if I'm looking around talking to different screens, that's why. Because like for YouTube, I would just usually be directly talking here or here or here, but I'm not, just because I have 3 things going on. So I'm trying to make sure that we've got everybody covered, and I'm paying attention to everybody. Let me peek back into my book and see what else I can find. I think I'm going to go until about 9:30 to see what's up and see who we can get on here. I'm trying to keep it kind of mellow tonight. I had a really bad week. Oh, let me read this part. So this is in chapter 41, the religion of modern cosmology. And I was literally just talking about this. So let me read this first paragraph at least. And I might read a couple pages just because it's really cool. Marshall Haas summarizes the satanic conspiracy behind the Jewish Kabbalistic foundation of the so-called science of heliocentrism, the Big Bang Theory, evolution, and modern psychology, with the largely successful objective of degenerating society and corrupting the Christian church. And I absolutely believe the Christian church has been corrupted, because Catholicism came in and claimed to be Christianity and started messing all kinds of people up. Riding the first waves of the Copernican revolution in the 1550s, 60s, and 70s was the Kabbalist Isaac Luria. He understood how fellow Kabbalists, and there's certain words in here, you have to like just bear with me because I'm pretty good at pronouncing, but some of these are funny. Kabbalist Nachmanides, 13th century Big Bang paradigm could actually be built upon the Copernican basis, and he promptly tied that understanding in with the Kabbalist Ben Kahana's first century calculation of a 15 billion-year-old universe, which only another Kabbalist would be privy to. At first, it was not clear to me why Luria is given so much credit for prophesying the Big Bangism, it's a word they put in here, 400 years ahead of its establishment. After all, there's that word again, Nachmanides, that might be the right way, had the same idea over 300 years before Luria, and did he also understand, before Luria did, and he also understood that Big Bang cosmology could never be built without first establishing a contra-biblical heliocentric foundation. So they intentionally made it heliocentric to counter the Bible, is what this is claiming. Luria, however, had the advantage of living at a time when the Gentile churchman Copernicus would push that foundational moving earth concept onto the world stage. The fact that Luria virtually pounced upon connecting the dots in the Rabbi Sakana Nachmanides, trying here, Big Bang cosmological paradigm 400 years before it was brought to fulfillment attests to the fortuitous launching of the necessary Copernican foundation to that paradigm during his lifetime, much more than any prophetic ability attached to him. Given the prospects of the scientifically accepted rotating Earth model and the fortified with centuries-old secret plan to destroy the Bible credibility by destroying its origin scenario, the path was cleared for Kabbalistic science to conquer the life sciences with evolutionism. That done, social and behavioral sciences and educational psychology and evolution-based Christianity could proceed to transvaluate Christian morals and ethics until they conformed to the Talmud Kabbalah morals and ethics. And so I don't know how aware you are, how much you guys know about Kabbalah and about Jewish mysticism and stuff like that, but it's different. It's different. It's not Torah-based Judaism. Okay, they kind of like they're called and I'm not being anti-Semitic, so just know this, because I might have family that's Jewish, and this is totally something different. You have your Kabbalistic beliefs, and they call a lot of them, they say they're Jews, but they're not. They're it's different. It's Kabbalistic. It's different. And I know some people who are Jewish that are like afraid of the Kabbalah because they're told it's an evil book. But then you have like the ancient, like Orthodox rabbis and stuff that's what they practice. And there's certain secret societies these days that also practice Kabbalistic theories and religious bases to their belief systems. So, you know, like I'm not like, this is something, I know it's a touchy subject for some people just because it's so easy to claim that you're being anti-Semitic, but it's, you have to understand it. You have to understand it. You can't try to talk about something or try to wrap your head around something without understanding the origins of each part of it. So it's like when my son was in history class, and they were trying to teach the religions, and they wouldn't teach about Jesus, but they were teaching about the Crusades and Islam. And I was like, well, why? How come they're not teaching about Jesus? And I got his history book, and the history book started at 500 AD, and it's called Medieval History. And that's how they get away without teaching religion, like the Jewish religions and where Jesus came from, because they started at 500 AD, and I think Islam was founded in 630. And then you have, like I said, the Inquisitions, where the Catholics came in, and so they're telling everybody that Catholics are in the name of Jesus, and Christianity are going around killing everybody. So it makes Christians look bad already. But if you're Bible-based, you're going to understand that that's not what we're supposed to do, and that's not real Christianity. Okay, that's Catholicism, and that's the difference. You have Judaism, and then you have your Kabbalistic portions of it. Let me find the word again. The Talmud and the Kabbalistic. So that's the difference, because they have their different form of Judaism, but it's different. It's not what it is. It's like Catholicism and Christianity. They're different, way different. But one's called the other because they don't really want to learn it. And then if they do learn it, it's a touchy subject. So people don't talk about it, because then people are going to think you're a hater. I'm not a hater. I love everybody. But I also do my research, because, like I said, your soul knows the truth, and my soul knows when something's lacking. And so I pray for knowledge and discernment. And when I started praying for knowledge and discernment, then I started getting, I don't know, for lack of a better word, I call them downloads, like spiritual downloads, like something that I get, like, okay, this is what you need to research next. Or I'll come across a subject, and basically, like, my soul's like, that's it right there. Research that. And I'll research it until it's my brain's mush, and I finally get that aha moment. And every once in a while, that aha moment is so overwhelming. I literally have to sit back and go, whew, okay, God, like, that was amazing. Thank you. Give me a week or two before I get another one of those, because I gotta cycle through this. You know, I gotta absorb this and process it and digest it. And then I'll be ready for more. And that's how it's been working ever since. And so when it comes to Flat Earth, and when it comes to learning Kabbalistic origins and the real origin of Judaism, and how different cultures were incorporated into Judaism, and how tradition broke off from scripture. And that's really how it goes. It's the same thing with the Catholic Church. Their tradition of their pomp and circumstance and rituals and stuff like that broke off from what was actually in the Bible. Because Jesus was a Jew, right? So Jesus was Jewish. Jesus had Jewish practices. He observed the feasts. You know, he was a Jew. So they're trying to make a new religion to worship Jesus, but Jesus only came to confirm what they were all taught in the first place, that God is the one. And so I think that's why they're trying to hide it when it comes to Flat Earth, if that makes any sense. Because if we're not an accident, then we're on purpose. And if we're on purpose, then who made us? right? Or if we're just an accident on a rock spinning through space, that's fine. But if people find out that we're not on a rock spinning through space and we're on a beautifully created earth with a beautifully created dome and stars and waters above and below, that was on purpose. And if that was on purpose, then who did it? And then you have the people who are like, well, who made God? It's like, please, you can't wrap your head around God. Like, that's the thing. He's all knowing, all seeing, everything. We can't wrap our head around God. I like to use the idea, and I'm not the type of person that believes we live in an actual simulation like a lot of people do, but I try to use this as an analogy to kind of help people, because they're like, well, how is Jesus God? Because Jesus is God. But how is Jesus God? Because he's his son. So how can he be himself and the son at the same time? God put it in a certain way to so we can try to wrap our heads around it a little bit. So it's like, okay, let's say there's a master computer programmer, okay? And he built this amazing computer, right? And he programmed it like Sims. So y'all are familiar with Sims. So he programmed it like Sims. And there's a bunch of little Sims running around in there because he created all of us, right? And we're running around in here. But he gave all of us a certain set of rules we're supposed to live by. But he also gave us all the free will to do what we want. And he did that to see who would listen to his will versus listening to other free will. And then to just level it up, we have evil in there whispering in our ear. And what a lot of people don't understand is that the world we live in is ruled by the evil one. So that's the trick. Is to see how many of us are going to fall into temptation with our free will of the evil one, and how many of us are going to seek him and do the right thing and stay on the right path. It's, like on certain video games, you can choose to be good or you can choose to go be evil, and you have different paths based on what things you choose to do. It's like that because you have the free will. Right, you could be the good guy of the story and get through the story and have different accomplishments this way, or you could be the bad guy in the story and have different accomplishments, not good ones, of course, and go through it this way. And I think it's something similar. So I believe that God would send different Sims through, different messengers through, like program them in there to tell people. Okay, and there were several messengers, which we call prophets, right, over our time, that he would send in here to tell us, hey, nudge you this way, nudge you this way. This is where we're supposed to be going. That's not the right way to go. And more people would start going towards the bad side because it was easier. And they weren't listening to these messengers that God keeps sending. So finally God was like, all right, I got to do it myself. I guess if I want something done right, I got to do it myself. So he created the ultimate sin. And the ultimate sin, right, is Jesus Christ, or Yeshua HaMashiach. And so God creates this being on earth, part man, part divine, and God is born in human flesh, in human form. Of course, he's still God, but part of him is here on earth, and he's experiencing it like we experience it. So then he gets to understand, because he created us, but being a God and then being in here and having that human experience are two different things. And so he comes down here to have the human experience, and then to hopefully guide us to do the right thing and to lead us to go the right direction. And then he wrote it into the program, right, that if we didn't listen, then he could make a final sacrifice, and it would allow whoever wanted to come to him, and you wouldn't have to be one of his special Sims. You could be any of the Sims as long as you understood the program and agreed to his terms, which is how Jesus died and was put on the cross for our sins. So that's how I believe that, try to kind of explain how Jesus is God, because that was the part of the program. Like, he couldn't just mess with everything, because there's a program in place, and you can't mess with that program or it corrupts the whole thing. So there has to be a workaround, and the workaround in the program was Jesus Christ and him dying on the cross for our sacrifice. Because if the sins were bad, they had to make a sacrifice, right? A blood sacrifice. And the blood sacrifice would cover their sin, right? So the Creator couldn't see it, but it wouldn't erase it. Like, it was still there. And I kind of like to say it's kind of like piling on a blanket, right? It covered you. Okay, you can't see the bad stuff anymore. But then every time you sin, you got to sacrifice another animal, another cover, another animal, another cover. And that gets heavy, and it gets dirty, and it gets smelly, right? So when Jesus came, he was the final sacrifice. But Jesus wasn't a cover. He was a cleanser. That's the cool part, right? So he came down and he had a final sin sacrifice. And no longer were we being covered. We were being cleansed completely, like erased. Like all of it was erased. So it was the coolest workaround that was ever programmed into a creation. So I kind of like to think it, like tell people it that way. And I had one time somebody, it was really cool. He was talking about how it was like Avatar, right? How there's another world and how you had to create a body to go into that world through the Avatar, something similar. So it's kind of like The Sims or the Avatar or something like that. But hopefully that kind of helps people. Growing up, a lot of our pastors didn't want to answer these tough questions, or they wouldn't even throw a theory out there and let your soul discern for yourself. And I think that's a big problem with churches these days. They don't teach what the Bible really entails. And like we had the question earlier, because she said the Bible says we're all gods. Sure enough, my Bible here, my New American Standard Version, said that we're gods. But I knew, because I read the Hebrew before, that when our Bible tells us that we're gods, it means we're probably saying that we're Elohim, which means we're divine beings created by God in his image, but we are not gods. We are Elohim, which means we are mighty ones, but not as mighty. We're not can't be compared to him, because there's only one, you know. So, hey y'all, my turn, huh? How are you? Luke Cat must do pit ask. That's funny. Funny. So we're talking about flat Earth, and how I was talking. Oh, I'm triple streaming right now. So you guys that just came in, I am on YouTube, I'm on Clapper, and I'm on Twitch, and I'm usually on TikTok. But I was banned until February 19th because I guess I was streaming something other than the inauguration on Inauguration Day, and they didn't like it. I don't know. They didn't tell me what I did. They just told me I violated community standards, and I'm not getting a straight answer from anybody. So I'm here with you guys. And my least productive stream is going to be the one I drop when I go back to TikTok. So let's hope we keep people on these. Currently, my least productive is Clapper, which is funny. This is so much like TikTok, but we have less people on there live than we do on YouTube and Twitch. So YouTube and Twitch are actually my most responsive right now. Usually TikTok's like my number one. So I was kind of ticked that they pulled me on that. And so I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is talking about the Coriolis force in here. And it's talking about the dome and how it has degrees and how it has a tilt, 15-degree tilt rotation. And our stars and our firmament is inside this dome. Pretty cool. And then I don't know if yours are going to do the same thing, but I asked my phone the other day what the shape of the Earth was, and it literally said that it's a sphere that's been flattened. Like, and it had like different terms, but it literally, if you break down every word, because it kind of like ran circles a little bit around it, but it literally said something about it being a sphere that's flattened at the North and South poles. And I was like, isn't that a disc? Like, you know? Or if you get a ball and it's deflated and you push something down into it, or let's say it's a clay ball, like a ball of clay, right? And it's round like a sphere. And you push something down into it and it flattens it. And then it's got turned up edges, but it's flat in the middle. It's like that. And that's what my phone told me when I asked the other day. I was like, what shape is the Earth? Just to be curious to see what it said. It didn't say it was a perfect sphere. And Tyson said, was it Tyson? You know, the scientist. Anyway, he was asked what type of shape the Earth was, and he said it was a pear shape or an oblate spheroid. So an oblate spheroid would be wider in the middle, and oblate, which is like shorter at the top and bottom, like kind of like an oval, right? Like that's what an oblate spheroid is. Neil deGrasse Tyson, that's what it was. And he said that was the shape of the Earth. Well, if the Earth is an oblate spheroid, How come every single image we have from outer space shows a perfect sphere? And why does the Earth from different satellites from different countries like Russia and China and America all have different looking Earths? The colors are different, continent shapes are a little bit different, the continent sizes are a little bit different. So it's just, if they were consistent at all, then I would still consider it, but there's no consistency in it. And if they keep losing trajectory data, and if they can't reproduce anything, and they're like, okay, so the 28th, right, was the Challenger mission, and they kept putting it on the news and on our phones, and it was the 30th anniversary of the Challenger explosion. But what a lot of people don't know, that like a lot of flat earthers have researched, is that most of the people from the Challenger mission didn't die. I know that's awful to say that, but they didn't. Like, there's pictures of them, and they didn't even change their names. They just went on to live quiet lives and didn't talk to anybody else, but their names are still the same. They look exactly the same as they used to. I think there's the Asian guy on the mission, and he was the only one that they can't find. But every single person on that ship was still alive as of 2 years ago. So it's just really weird that they just keep pulling the wool over your eyes. And then, is it Neil Armstrong? No. One of the astronauts. I don't know if you guys saw the news with him and that little girl, and he's telling the little girl he wanted to know the truth too, because we really didn't go there, you know. And why did a movie producer produce the moon missions? And why are the moon missions on the Hollywood Walk of Fame under a movie title? Like, they have like a little movie thing on there. It's not for science. It's literally for production. It's just, there's so many unanswered questions. So it'd be cool if I had some of you all jumping in to ask some questions so we can learn on them together, though. Because I have unanswered questions that I'd like to know some more answers to. But I'm going to give it just like, let's see, 5 more minutes, and then I'm going to end the stream for tonight. So if you guys want to follow me on any of my my platforms, it's on YouTube, it's Mela Vibes, just Mela space Vibes. But on Twitch, Clapper, and TikTok, it's Mela_Vibes. It's really easy. And then, like I said, and look up the rocket launches and stuff like that with the cameras, because it's so cool. Because those are the ones that you can, like I said, when the rocket just shoots up and it's like super fast, and you can just see it spinning because the cameras are going like a million miles a minute. Not really, but figuratively. And it's spinning, and then all of a sudden it just goes, like it just, like it hits a gel and just stops and kind of suspends for just a second. And it sounds like it's underwater because they have microphones on it too. So when it's in regular atmospheric air, you can hear it like you really, like we would expect to. But then once it hits that, it sounds like it's underwater or inside of a thick liquid. It's really cool. And then it starts to drop back down after a moment, because that is like slows and just like slowly spins, like it almost completely stops it. And then it just starts to drop back down. So it's really cool. But I recommend it. I don't know exactly which one it is, but there's a bunch of them on YouTube. But that one you guys will probably find, because I watched like hundreds of them. Because I wanted to see for myself. Because most of the time you have the people that go up in the air. They have GoPros that have fisheye lenses on them. You can't trust a fisheye, okay? It changes the shape of the bars on the plane even. You can't trust a fisheye lens, especially not when you're looking at a sphere. But the rockets that go up, like I said, even the same rocket that went up and hit whatever that gel was at the top, while it's coming down, you can see how beautiful our Earth is. Like I stopped and paused it because it's spinning, so you don't get like a straight view. But then it would teeter because it's going slow. You can see the horizon, you can see the dark line, and it's so cool. And then the Earth down low, but it's never curved. It's never curved. It's always flat. So, like I said, I became a flat earther because I was really annoyed by somebody who kept claiming that the Earth was flat, and I wanted to shut him up. And I ended up becoming a flat earther because I'm a research nerd. And it took me probably a couple years before I told anybody but my husband that I started to think that the Earth was flat. But then after so long, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to hide this anymore because this is so amazing and so awesome. My Bible even confirmed it, you know. Hey, I just got somebody else on Twitch. It's Mike G. Mike G, I am getting ready to log off, but I will be happy to chat and answer some questions, and I will stick around for a minute if you have some, or if you have any questions about why. But that's what I was saying. Like I'm a nerd. I'm a researcher. This is like a drop of the books I have. I literally just pulled some out of here and put them up here out of my bookshelf, just to have in here for reference and because they're cool. But I have lots of books. What convinced me? There's a lot of things that convince me. There's the experiments that a lot of people did, like Folcott's pendulum and the Coriolis effect, to name two of them. And then the distance experiments, the rocket experiments, the fact that NASA lost all the data for the moon missions, no trajectory data, they can't go back. Then if you also, I've been to the Air and Space Museum. If you guys haven't, it's really cool. You should go in DC. And you go look at those crafts, and you're going to tell me those crafts actually went to the moon and came back. They didn't. And then they have replicas, and the replicas are literally like made of foil. And then the moon rover is literally like PVC and lawn chairs. It's crazy for them. The way that they pass this off is real. But back then, like people didn't know the technology behind TV and like photographic manipulation and stuff like that. So, but the smarter people are and the more technology advances, the more questions we ask. That's why we haven't been back to the moon in a minute. Like, what was it? The 70s was the last time we went. So they lost the trajectory. They lost all of the data from the moon missions. And then you got to look at the moon missions themselves. Okay, so there's the funny one. They have Neil Armstrong's suit in the museum, and he's in the suit, has his whole suit. And there's a couple things that crack me up about their moon suits. I'm a professional seamstress too, just to let you guys know. Their moon suits have zippers in the crotch. Now, if for what they tell us in science class that space is a vacuum, and we'll get to that in just a second, but what they tell us in science class that space is a vacuum, and so everything has to be airtight, okay? Whatever is not airtight is going to be sucked out. So if they literally had zippers in the crotch of their moon suits, wouldn't that mean that there was some kind of a vent there, like a little, like, I don't know, like zippers aren't airtight. Okay, not unless you have a flap and a flap and a flap, but they didn't have flaps on these zippers. It was just a zipper. Then their junk would have become spaghetti in outer space. And ask any physicist how you can have a vacuum without a container. You can't. You can't. There's no vacuum without a container. Well, actually, the physicists don't. I've watched a lot of them. There are certain ones that they'll put out, and depending on who produced it, they'll show you one side or the other. But I've seen a lot with the physicists too. And the physicists can't tell you about the fact they can't even reproduce it. They cannot reproduce. They cannot reproduce in a lab anything sticking to a freaking ball while spinning that fast. Okay. And as you know, if like, let's say you get a tennis ball wet, and then it spins in the air, the water flies off of the ball. Okay, we can even put like a string through it and wind it up and then pull it tight so it spins really fast. Everything flies off of it. And I know we don't have a magnetic core in the ball and everything like that, but gravity is so powerful that it can hold us to the earth, but a drop of dew stays on a leaf. It doesn't make sense, right? Gravity is so powerful that it can hold us to the earth, but clouds are staying in the sky and they weigh thousands of pounds because of the density in the water. So it's not gravity, it's density and buoyancy. And so, you know, there's a whole bunch of things. Even Einstein disproved, I think, gravity by the time he was done. There's so many questions. Like if they were consistent, if they had consistent science, and if they can answer certain questions, but they can't, they run from them. And it makes me mad. And if you've ever seen the videos, and I know this isn't science-based, but there's a guy, and he goes around, he's asking all the astronauts if they would swear on a Bible that they went to the moon. And these astronauts get mad, and literally, I think one or two of them actually physically assault the guy when he's asking them these questions. Like, it's crazy. If they went to the moon and they're religious men like they say they are, why wouldn't they swear? I mean, of course, the Bible tells you not to swear, but that's not what they say. They got violent, kicked him out, and one of them threatened to call the government on him, like the feds. So that was crazy. But even Neil deGrasse Tyson can't even explain gravity. Look up where they asked him, he's like, well, gravity, we just don't know what gravity is. It's just a thing. Like, well, explain it then, because I need more than hypotheticals and theoreticals, because that's all they have right now is hypotheticals and theoreticals. I don't care how good of a mathematician you are. It's still just numbers unless you can reproduce it. You can't reproduce a vacuum without a container. It doesn't exist. You have to have a container. So if outer space is vast, open, and empty, and it's a vacuum, there's got to be a container. There's got to be a container. If space is a vacuum and we have a gaseous atmosphere that's not solidified within something in a container, then why aren't we getting sucked out? I mean, it's crazy. I know that's why I said tennis ball doesn't have gravity. I'm talking about if something's spinning, though. Also, look this up. Earth is supposed to have a molten core, right? A molten iron, but it's also supposed to be magnetic. But the temperature at which they say the iron melts is higher than the temperature at which metal loses its magnetism. So we couldn't have a magnetic core at that temperature. It's not possible. And they haven't been able to go more than 7 miles down, so it's all hypothetical too. So how do you even know it's inside there? Because it's hypothetical, theoretical, and only math. They have never been there. They can't reproduce it. They can't prove it. So, it's all hypothetical, theoretical. They can't reproduce it. They can't prove it. But there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of flat earth experiments out there that have been reproduced and proven. Okay, but they can't prove that the core is even moving. They don't even know it's moving. They don't even know it's moving. Earth is electromagnetic. I will give you that 110%. I believe that. Earth is electromagnetic. We are electromagnetic. Our environment, our atmosphere, how the earth works is electromagnetic. We do work like a giant clock, and magnetics cause that clock to work. I don't know if you guys understand how Swiss watches work. Swiss watches, if you open them up, it's a beautiful series of gears and springs and everything inside there that make this thing move so beautifully without any glitch or without any tick, right? A Swiss watch doesn't tick, it just glides. The reason a Swiss watch glides is because within it has jewels, okay? Like our earth, inside of it has jewels. We have quartz and diamonds and rubies and emeralds and stuff like that. Our earth contains jewels, and jewels have frequency themselves, and they emit a certain frequency and certain energy. So inside the Swiss clocks, they have what they call, you have a 15 joule or a 17 joule or a 21 joule Swiss watch. Inside of those clocks, they have quartz crystals and real rubies and real emeralds in there. And those are what keep that little thing moving. You do have to wind it every once in a while, but it keeps it in a smooth, beautiful motion because it plays off of each of the frequencies on those jewels. And you remember quartz clocks? That's one of the oldest ones was quartz clocks. So it's pretty cool. Right, but the motion of the core that causes magnetic fields. But where is it proven? Where is it proven? It's math and theory. It's theory. It's theory, and hypotheticals. It can't be proven. It can't be proven. And, in order for you to believe a system that has constantly lied to you from the moment you got into kindergarten about so much, even where you come from, how you got here, who discovered the land we live on. It's all been a lie from day one. And people still want to believe that these people are telling us the truth. And, they want to hide the creator, want to hide the fact that we are built on purpose. We're not an accident. And I think that's another thing. When people realize that we have a purpose and that we have a power and we're created for a certain reason, that's where our power comes in. And that's where we stand up and we're like, okay, well, you guys have been lying to us and we don't want you in power anymore. You're not getting our $20 billion a year for NASA, and you're not getting an extra bonus for the space program. So when they start actually proving stuff, proving it, not hypothetical, not theoretical, not, oh, we lost the data, so we can't go back. They started going to the moon in the 60s. Why can't we go back? Oh, yeah, now it's the Van Allen belt. And then they did an interview with the astronauts from the first Apollo missions, and they're like, oh, it was fine for us. We didn't have a problem. Well, if the Van Allen belt wasn't a problem, then why is it a problem now? I think it's because people discovered there's a firmament and they can't get past it. So then now they needed an excuse. Oh, the Van Allen belt maybe wasn't a problem so much back then, and now it's more of a problem. Right. But they've been saying we're going to go back to the moon every single year since, Nixon, right? So why haven't we gone? If it's so close, if we're neighbors, if it's right there. And the cool thing is if they did go to the moon, people could get their Nikon cameras out and film them right there on the moon. Maybe that's why they're not going back. Because our cameras are so good now that people with their little Nikon 1000 cameras can walk out there and look into the craters of the moon. So if they really did go to the moon, people would literally be able to photograph it from ground to the moon if they wanted to. Why wouldn't they go out to the moon and set up like lights or mirrors or something so that people would know that they've been there? Hey, I'm just saying, you could laugh, you guys can laugh, that's fine. But I'm just saying, I've been studying the crap out of this stuff. Okay, so Mike is saying, I'm triple streaming right now. So I'm on YouTube and Twitch and Clapper. I think you've picked and chosen different points of view that fit your well, so here's the thing about the preconceived religious ideas. I started studying the Bible to be a minister way before, when I still had a heliocentric brain, right? Well, when I still believed wholeheartedly that we lived on a globe. Like, so I didn't take Bible, what I knew from the Bible, and put it into my flat earth learning. What I did is I started studying flat earth, and it started mentioning the Bible in flat earth. So it confirmed what I was learning in the Bible. It was actually the other way around. So it's not like I took what I thought of the Bible and then put it into flat earth. It was literally the other way around. So once I started getting into the flat earth and studying flat earth, and then I saw the references from the flat earth community that went back to the Bible, it was more like a confirmation for me. So I didn't take one and put it in the other. It was just like, oh, wow, that's there too. So I really learned the science of the flat earth before I actually realized that it had biblical connotations as well. It was more of a confirmation. He says, and you have tried to find the information is out there, so is the moon round, or maybe it doesn't exist. So I went over the moon a little bit earlier. It's a circle. And theory, obviously, right? Because it could be a sphere, but it doesn't rotate. So why doesn't it rotate if everything else rotates? The moon doesn't rotate. Every single part of the earth sees the exact same face of the moon. Why? And why doesn't it rotate if we're spinning through space? And if everything is spinning through space randomly like an explosion, why isn't there some type of rotation to the moon? How could it possibly stay still if we're hurtling through space at thousands of miles an hour? It's impossible. And like I said earlier, and you weren't here earlier, but how do you explain retrograde? Like, I know how they try to play off a retrograde scientifically, because they say it looks like it's going so slow that it looks like it's going backwards compared to the other planets. That doesn't make any sense. If we're hurtling through outer space with all these planets hurtling around us and they're going in the exact same patterns, how can one seem to look like it's going backwards certain times of the year? And sometimes several of the planets are retrograde at once. How? How is that even possible in scientific models? It's not. They just try to say, oh, well, it appears to be going backwards because it's going so slow compared to the other planets that it's lapping. That's not the case. Like, retrograde is retrograde. Retro means backwards. Like, there's a reason for it. Like, they named it this. Well, I've been in religion my whole life, but I didn't correlate. Like, Isaiah 40:22 says the earth is round, right? So, or circle. So, I mean, we're taught in school that the earth is a globe. So in my brain, I was like, circle, globe, okay, just like everybody else does. But it's only when I started doing, like I said, studying flat earth, then I'm like, oh, circle, sphere. And I started looking into the Hebrew and the actual transliteration, not just the translation from Hebrew to English. I started looking at the root words and the meaning behind the root words, because our words mean different things than their words do, and they're translated differently. So I started going into the root words in Hebrew and stuff like that too, to make sure of what the Bible was trying to tell us at the same time. So it wasn't like that. So, but it does rotate, LOL. What does rotate? The moon? Because they don't have proof that the moon doesn't rotate. It doesn't move. If it did rotate, we would see the other side. The moon should be rotating, but it's not. Because it's here's our, like, so if our Earth's flat and here's our dome, and the moon is within the dome, and you're only seeing the same face as it goes around the whole time. So it's only showing you the same face the whole time. So if it were actual, like, so why does everything else rotate and that doesn't? And they tell you that the other planets rotate, but we can't confirm the other planets rotate because they don't have actual non-CGI images that show it rotates. They can tell you there's a rotation, but they can't prove that there's a rotation. They can just tell you it's rotating, and you just believe them because they're the guys with the lab coats and the glasses and the badges. But see, but they can't prove that. That's what they tell you, and you're going to believe it. So it's like both sides have valid arguments, and I like to tell people. So if you have two men on a street corner, and they're both telling two different stories, right? And one's telling the truth, and one's telling a lie. But one man is wearing a really nice Armani suit, and the other one looks like he might be homeless. Who are you going to listen to? Even if the story sounds a little bit illogical or kind of crazy, you're going to listen to the man who's dressed nicer and who talks better, because he looks like he's the one that knows what he's doing more. But he could just be a smart talker and a con artist who stole the suit after he killed somebody. You never know. So the whole thing is looks can be deceiving. Looks can really be deceiving. And it's crazy the way that people are unraveling the system right now. And it's totally kind of off the subject, but kind of not off the subject. Yeah, I mean, well, so Mike, sometimes people, you said you listen to the one that makes most sense. If you're a blind person and you can't see what each person looks like, that makes a lot of sense. But if you're in our world today, we're taught to respect people based on how they dress or their status or their jobs or what they drive or who they know, right? So that's how we're taught in this society. Not a lot of people are taught to not judge a book by its cover anymore. Okay, and I'm going to read off of YouTube really quick. Everyone has explored the Earth says it's not flat. No, actually, that's not true. Go look at Admiral Byrd and the CIA documents. And actually, if you literally go to the CIA website, and they recently disclosed a bunch of this stuff, but this was one that was disclosed ahead of time before last week. Go to the CIA website, and many of the documents will tell you that their trajectory data is based on a flat and unmoving Earth. Okay, so right in the CIA documents. But Admiral Byrd, he was not a flat earther. He said that when he flew over towards the Antarctic, that the Earth looked like it was flat with upturned edges. Exact words, quote, quote, quote. You can look it up. It's on video. So, So before this week's stock market stuff, right? You guys all heard about the stock market? Everybody thought the stock market was a free and fair market. Everybody had a chance to get in and get rich if they really wanted to, right? Well, if I'm wrong, tell me that the video was lying then, because I watched it myself. So anyway, so the stock market, right? Everybody thought that the stock market was a free market. And then you get all these people in there, and they figured out how to work the market, right? So they run up GameStop, and they run up AMC, and they're running up silver right now. And now they're trying to stop the stock market because somebody is winning besides the people who were winning before, okay? They're trying to control the stock market and the information within and out of it, just like they're trying to control the information that we've been taught that people are starting to break out of. We're starting to break out of what they were put in place for us to indoctrinate us. And the flat earth is just one little part of it. It's the whole financial system, it's the religious system, it's our social system, it's our political system, every bit of that. I know Admiral Byrd is not Auguste Piccard. Auguste Piccard was one of the first explorers that went up, and he also said it was flat with an upturned edge. Admiral Byrd was a military explorer, and when he did some of his first interviews, he actually talked about the Earth being flat when he went up there, and he also said that there was land beyond the Antarctic walls, all kinds of land that weren't frozen. So look that up too. I know who Auguste Piccard is. I also know that they named the guy on Star Trek, Jean-Luc Picard, after him. I also know Auguste Piccard has an explorer that was a brother that was an explorer, and I think a son who was an oceanic explorer. So I'm like I said, I've done some research. Well, good, so do I. It didn't rotate as it orbited. We see the entire moon over a month. I'd listen to one that makes sense. Tell me something. Is there anything that I could show you that would convince you the Earth is round? The Earth is round, but it's not a sphere. It's round like a dinner plate. The top of my cup is round, but it's not a sphere. Okay, it's round, and if it were something over it, it'd be flat. So the Earth is round, but it's not a sphere. A round sphere, yeah. Actually, no, I haven't just watched YouTube. I've done a lot of research, and my newest one is this book. It's called The Greatest Lie on Earth. It's Edward Hendry. It's called the Expanded Edition. It is lots of pages, but the guy is a researcher and an attorney. And this is one of the most highly rated books around the world. It's loaded with scientific data. I have not read much of it at all lately, or at all, because I just got it. But I plan to. But a lot of the experiments and a lot of the research that I've actually looked up is actually in here. Even if you go with like flight trajectory and flight plans. I don't have, see, here's the thing, like, I'm not here to, like, to argue with anybody. I'm just here to tell you what I know. And then if you don't believe it, that's fine. Because I didn't believe it either. I had, like, I totally argued up one side and down the other with somebody about the Earth being round or flat. Like, I was like, it's not flat. You're stupid. You're an idiot. I literally unfriended this person on Facebook because they were driving me crazy about flat Earth stuff. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to shut this dude up. And I started looking it up for myself, and I could not say that he was wrong. I couldn't say that he was wrong because every time I would look up an experiment that he showed on flat Earth, I couldn't find a logical counter experiment. And a lot of the experiments that people were using to prove a spherical Earth were actually ended up favoring a flat Earth model. And and like I said, even Neil deGrasse, here's the other thing, you guys, and I don't know if you guys were both here a minute ago when I said this, but Neil deGrasse Tyson, right? He says that the Earth is an oblate spheroid. Okay, so a spheroid that's oblate. So it's like a squished circle. And it says it's kind of pear-shaped, or it's a little smaller at the top and wider at the bottom. Literally, Neil deGrasse Tyson, if y'all want to be a heliocentrist, this is one of them. And that's what he claims. Okay, so go with that. Why does every picture from outer space show a perfect sphere? So it's called Bill Nye and No. And I don't believe Neil deGrasse Tyson, but a lot of people who are heliocentrists like to quote him because he calls flat earthers ridiculous, but then he's the one that says the Earth isn't even a sphere. It's an oblate spheroid. Well, he's asking, so have you ever performed any of your own experiments to either prove or disprove any of your knowledge or curvature of the Earth? If so, what experiments have you performed? So what was your hypothesis and the result? I haven't done a whole lot of experiments by myself, but I will tell you the distance experiment and the whole thing about the curvature of the Earth, but by the curve, the numbers that they give us, there's no way that that's logical because I live in Southern California. I go to the ocean all the time, right? So I shouldn't be able to see the islands as far out as they are. I shouldn't be able to see that if the curve of the Earth is what they say it is. I shouldn't be able to see the ships as far out as they are if the curve is where they say it is. And that's with my own eyes. Like, you guys know how if they go off into the distance, it looks like they're kind of sinking down because people say that's the curvature. But then if you get a camera, you can pull them right back because they're not really sinking down. It's perspective. No, you're right. Isaiah 40:22, I already went over this. If you look up the Hebrew behind it, it does not say sphere, it says circle. The circle of the Earth. It doesn't say sphere. So, right. Okay, so you say all I do is watch videos. If all you did is sit in geography class or even social studies or something, they're gonna, like I said, they told you that that Christopher Columbus sailed around the world and that he discovered America. Do you still believe Christopher Columbus discovered America? Actually, it does not say globe, and I will look it up and read it for you in the Hebrew right now because I have my Hebrew Bible pulled up. I was on a different book, though, so give me just a second. I'm looking for it. I got my interlinear text here. Here we go. Isaiah 40, 22 says, he who sits above the circle of the earth and its inhabitants are like grasshoppers, who stretches out the heavens like a curtain and spreads them out like a tent to dwell in. Now, the word circle is ashug, chug, which in Hebrew translates to circle. And then it says it stretches the heavens out like a curtain and like a tent to dwell in, which is the firmament. In Isaiah 21, do you not know and have you not heard? Has it not been declared to you from the beginning? Have you not understood from the foundations of the earth? Right, but they said that the Bible said circle. So Nichols right here on, so Mike, the reason I'm saying the Bible is because if you're looking on your own chat here on Twitch, he literally asked me about Isaiah 40:22. And so trying to say that Isaiah 40:22 proves that the earth is a sphere. Nowhere in the Bible does it say the earth is a sphere. It also doesn't say that anywhere that the moon reflects the sunlight either. And you guys, there's no way. Like the moon was literally out night and day here for 5 days last week before the full moon, day and night. But anyway, that's what it is in Hebrew. And I don't speak Hebrew very well, but in Hebrew, it says, and like, pardon me, like I said, my pronunciation sucks. Hayosheb al shug haaretz yoshabaya ka shabayim hanote kadok shemayim weyem tachim kauchel lashobeth. So that's what it says. But the al shug is above the circle. Al shug, above the circle, is what it says in Hebrew. So, yeah. But yeah, so that's what he said. He wanted to tell me that 40:22 proved, and that's like when I opened up tonight, it's one of the first things I said was Isaiah 40:22 is like the go-to for people. So, my cool channel name. That's a really cool channel name. Greetings. So I'm triple streaming right now. I am on YouTube, and I am on Clapper, and I am on Twitch. And I'm usually on TikTok, but TikTok kicked me off on Inauguration Day because I was not playing the inauguration. I was doing something else, and I guess they didn't like it. So I can't go back there until, well, I'm on TikTok doing TikToks, but I can't go back to doing live on TikTok until February 19th unless they honor my appeal. I don't know. Well, I don't believe in aliens and I don't believe in outer space, but what I do believe is that the stars are, the planets are wandering stars. They haven't proven that the planets are spheres. Some of them look round, but they're wandering stars. Like they're a little bit different. Like the regular stars are fixed and not moving. The constellations don't change ever, ever, ever. In thousands and thousands of years, the constellations have not changed. They've not strayed, not even one little millimeter in the sky. They're exactly as they were thousands of years ago. So if our universe is ever expanding, right? We're ever expanding, like they said, and things are constantly moving and spreading out. Don't you think over thousands of years that something would have changed a little bit? It hasn't. And the math that they've done thousands of years ago, that these ancient civilizations did thousands of years ago that were supposed to be so primitive, actually still stands today because things didn't change. Everything's still exactly where it was in the sky. So even if the sun is 93 million miles away, which it's not, but I digress. Even if the sun is 93 million miles away, how is it still in the same spot in the sky forever and ever for thousands and thousands of years if we're just a random scatter of rocks in the middle of nowhere? So, the constellations haven't changed. The constellations, literally the solstices and everything, the constellations, the pyramids, everything still lines up the same way it did thousands of years ago. Like dead center, even Stonehenge. Dead center. Like things haven't changed. But I mean, like I said, it's you guys can believe whatever you want to believe. I had to unlearn completely in order to relearn. So you can say lies and wrong and all that stuff. I don't care. That's on you. I can't stress enough how important it is for someone to do their own research, because someone, like I said, someone was telling me before that the earth was flat, and I totally dismissed him, didn't believe him, called him crazy, called him stupid, everything, told him he was a wrong and he was a liar, until I started doing my own research. Are we really alive? Are we really alive? No, we're not humans trying to have a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. Okay, this is all temporal, right? It's all temporary. And you want to go scientific, energy never dies. Energy never dies. And they have proven that we are energy, right? So if our bodies die, there's still energy within us. It just switches forms. So that doesn't die. So you can say that that's scientific, and I can say it's biblical. It's just our different translations of the exact same freaking thing. Okay, you can tell me I'm lying. That's fine. I didn't say, when did I say Polaris? That's funny because you weren't here earlier. You do have to want to know. You have to want to know. You have to want to know enough to admit that you've been lied to. So, does there exist some piece of evidence that would prove to you that the earth is a sphere? No, not really. There's so much evidence that I found that proves to me that the earth is not a sphere, that there would have to be a whole heap of proving and disproving for me to pick one way or another, to switch up now. And that's how I was. I was raised for 35 years heliocentric. Like, that's how I believed, just like everybody else, just like you guys believe. Like for 35 years, I believed that we were living on a spinning ball in outer space. And as a little kid, it scared the shit out of me to think that if the earth stopped moving and the core stopped, cooled down and didn't do its thing, that we were going to float into space and die. Because that's what they told us all, right? Like, Katie, Callie, like, look, you're telling me there's no proof, but listen, lady, there's no proof the other way either. It's all hypotheticals. It's all hypotheticals, every bit of it, every theoretical and hypothetical. That's what outer space is. You go to NASA, you think NASA is telling such a truth? Go to their website, and then when you go to it says photograph by such and such, or photograph, and you click on it, and then you go into the metadata, I guess, which is within the photograph, and underneath it, it literally tells you that it's a composite based on data that they were given. So they're doing their best as artists to composite. So flat earth is not demonic. Flat earth is biblical. It's not demonic. Aliens are demonic. Flat earth isn't. The Bible doesn't talk about aliens from outer space. It doesn't talk about spaceships. It doesn't talk about spheres flying through outer space. It doesn't talk about a big bang. So don't tell me what's demonic, because then you're really getting on a different thing with me here. I know, Mike, look, the whole thing, he's trying to say if there's anything that he could show me that might convince me that the earth was a sphere. Like, no, like, can you prove what's inside the core of the earth? You can't, because even ground penetrating radar only goes so far, right? It only goes so far. They can map the bottom of the ocean and maybe so many feet below, not even 100 feet below ground. There's nothing that they can do, that could tell me what's in the earth or what's in outer space. They can come up with the trajectory data. They can show actual footage of the rockets going in and out of Earth's orbit. They can show actual footage of the stars in outer space, which there is none when they go in outer space. Where's the stars? They're all gone. Okay, there's millions of satellites, according to NASA, in outer space right now. Yet when they do spacewalks and we're looking at the space station, that there are no satellites at the space station. They're traveling 17,000 miles an hour in outer space, and there's not one satellite up there that they run into, or maybe they're in a different, elevation or something. I don't know, but we still don't see them. She says, if you could dig a hole through the earth, at what point would you no longer be digging down? You know what? Nobody knows that, because scientists can't get further than 7 miles. So, that's another thing. They're going to tell you that what the Earth's core looks like. They tell you what's inside the core and how hot it is, and all this other stuff, yet they've never been more than 7 miles down there. They can't even dig a hole farther than 7 miles into the earth. So Misty, hey, I'm not. I'm actually going by what we learned in school, right? They literally have not dug a hole further than 7 miles into the earth. So you're funny that you're like, oh, she's just reciting this all on YouTube. You're on YouTube. Okay, going to post another link. It's a long video. Okay, I'll look at it. Yeah, I'm like I said, so there's Fodor on here, and he's on Twitch, and he's giving me links and stuff like that. And Mike, you're being super awesome and cordial, even though we have different opinions, and I totally respect that. Same thing with Fodor 362. You guys are being awesome. I really appreciate the you guys being cordial and nice about it, and not being name calling or hostile. So I super appreciate that. Well, it doesn't make my beliefs illogical, because I can say the same thing to you. I can say, well, is there anything I can show you flat Earth that would convince you that the Earth was flat? And you probably tell me no, because your mind's already made up that it's not. So it's not that like one or the other. It's just like I said, I've looked at the stuff and I can't find, like, the Coriolis experiment and the Foucault's pendulum. Like I said, I've said those several times. But there are several different things that lead up to the fact that I don't believe that the Earth is flat or round. Why be nice? Well, why be an asshole? I mean, seriously, this world is so full of assholes and haters and people dividing everybody right now, and we're just trying to share information. Why be an asshole? Seriously. I mean, like, right? I mean, everyone's trying to divide everybody right now. Race, religion, money, this person voted for. Who cares? Why be an asshole? Life is too short to be a jerk to somebody. I personally am just here so that we can have a conversation, and that I can talk to people and like get see where other people are with their opinions, and if they could feed me something I haven't already seen before. And some of these guys on here on Twitch are being awesome, and they're giving me links I don't think I've been to before. And so that might be information I haven't seen yet. Well, I'm not being an asshole. You came to my chat and started getting hostile, so I'm just saying. Okay, I said, well, no, well, so Mike, like, so if there were things that like you said, if there was something that I could show, that you could show me, like I said a lot of things, right? I said, if you can show me trajectory data, if they actually go back up there with cameras on the rockets, if they get to the moon and they can, and we can see the moon with our little Nikon cameras down here with satellites, and they're up there showing us the same thing in real time, that would be really cool for us to see, because that would really kind of more convince me, right? If the rockets went through our atmosphere instead of up and over, right? If they quit cutting away from the footage every time a rocket went up in the air to go to outer space, that would be more convincing to me. If they had actual trajectory data from the moon landings and didn't say they just lost them somewhere and couldn't reproduce it, that would be more convincing to me. If the spacesuits matched up with what they say is scientific in outer space, like even the suits that they made for the moon landings and stuff don't match up with the science behind the temperature and the vacuum of outer space. The tread on the boots of Neil Armstrong don't even match the footprints that they put on the moon. So, like, there are so many things that just are not adding up, you know? So there's so many things that aren't adding up. But like I said, like if they like photographic or like real live footage would be the most awesome thing, if they could show me that. But the normal, just regular old people who are putting rockets together and sending them 100,000 feet up into the atmosphere and putting real non-fisheye lenses on those cameras is more convincing to me than some CGI that NASA puts out. So. So someone said, cool channel name. A great problem that we have is, Misty, is that the numbers the mainstream academia provides that the spherical Earth is not evident. And that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just numbers and evidence. Okay, it's not just like, oh, my teacher told me in kindergarten that we were on a globe. Like, it's not that. Like I said, for 35 years, I actually believed that we were living on a spinning ball just like everybody else does. Now, a lot of this, the science that they told us in school doesn't hold up. They can't reproduce it. They can't tell you why, how a vacuum exists without a container. A vacuum scientifically can't exist without a container, yet with the space is considered a vacuum. That doesn't make sense. Okay, so this is funny. He said, at Mike, so from the sound of it, we need to convince Wall Street Bets to send a Nikon camera to the moon. I bet there's more than one Redditor that would be happy to do that with GME profits. That is so cool. You know what? That's a cool idea, actually. I bet a lot of people would be into that too. Because I think there's one called Rocket Dog or something like that that sends rockets up into low Earth orbit. And then also the space station, what they'll tell you is actually in LE orbit, which is low Earth orbit, is what they call within the Van Allen belt, which is within the firmament. So if you kind of like add those up. Well, I love it when someone comes on here and gets on my stuff and just keeps calling me names. God bless you, sweetheart. God bless you. So, but yeah, it would be cool with the Wall Street stuff if they did that. That would be hilarious. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, like, there's normal people that have done experiments all day long that prove one thing or the other. And like I said, normal people who are doing everyday experiments for flat Earth are showing me more numbers and more evidence than NASA's numbers that don't add up, or what they're hiding, or what they're saying is hypothetical or theoretical, or the math works, but they haven't actually done it yet, but they've wrote it out and they've got the whole thing planned out, but they haven't done it yet. But we're going to go to the moon again soon, just not yet, but soon. And soon we're going to do pedestrians, right? They're going to do, not pedestrians, oh shit, you know, we're going to take people on rides back and forth. What is it? So Mike says, I suggest you read the article. It uses the sun to conclusively debunk flat Earth if you're willing to view the evidence. Hey, you know what? Like I said, if it shows me something that I can't deny or debunk, absolutely I'll look at it. You want to give me like a quick rundown, or you just think I should have to read myself? Because I will. I mean, obviously. But I'll do it. Okay, so this is a good question, and some people don't realize this. Okay, so it says, no, I didn't say ISS was in the Van Allen belt. I said it's within underneath, because the International Space Station, they said can't travel past the Van Allen belt because they said it's too dangerous. But the Van Allen belt wasn't a problem in the 60s and 70s when they were going to the moon every few months. But all of a sudden, now that people are getting smart and they're starting to realize, hey, wait, something's not adding up. They're like, well, we can't go now because there's something called the Van Allen belts. So it's you know, now they're saying it's an excuse as to why we can't go. All compasses do point north. So there was a question someone asked, I'm going to answer really quick. Okay, how come nobody can go to the edge, and where does the water go? Really good question. Okay, and I don't have my map on me, so I'm just going to use this one. So this is like a flat Earth model, okay? So everybody can see, this is a flat Earth model. All compasses point to north as Cool Channel. Is it Cool Channel? Someone here said all compasses point to north. Yeah, Cool Channel did. So all compasses point to north, okay? The center was what's called the North Pole, right? All compasses point there. And of course, everyone who is a heliocentric person is going to think that that's the North Pole at the top of the Earth, right? And all compasses, and then south is exactly opposite. So this whole ring here is south, and it's called the Arctic Circle. Circle. Guys, circle. This is a circle. So it's called the Arctic Circle. And east to west goes one way or the other, but doesn't stop, okay? And so just like they say, it would be like the equator, right? East to west constantly goes, doesn't stop. There's nowhere that you could hit that would stop here and go back the other direction. It's constant. No matter where you go, it's east to west. And back the other direction would be west to east. So it's constantly the other direction. Well, that's the thing, Ted. Like magnetic, they say magnetic north and true north are two different things, but that's what they want to tell you. They tell us that we're on a tilt because of the analemmas, but the analemmas are just the fact that our Earth is a clock. We're a big clock, and they can't. They use it to tell you that we have a tilt to explain why that some parts of the Earth get sun at certain times of the year and other parts don't. That's how they do the tilt. But the truth is that our sun in different seasons travels closer to the north, and in other seasons it travels closer to the south, which is why Antarctica, which this whole ring here is Antarctica, and on a globe it's draped over a globe and buttoned together at the bottom to make it look like a continent. And I called it like the Earth butt earlier because it kind of just wraps around it and puckers up together at the bottom. And that's Antarctica. But this whole thing right here is Antarctica. The whole thing, it's called the Arctic Circle for a reason. There's a reason why over 53 nations have a treaty that nobody can go there without military escort. There's a reason why nobody can own any part of that land. And you guys think that's funny? Okay, and then he also asked where the water goes. This is the Antarctic Circle. The entire dome goes over this like this, and it's warmer towards the middle because that's where our heat source is for our sun. But on the outside, it's cold. And it's cold for a reason because there's an ice wall there. And you guys can find pictures all over the internet, not everywhere, about the ice wall. The ice wall is hundreds of feet high, and it goes for miles and miles and miles. Now, like I said earlier, Admiral Byrd had made explorations above there at one point, and he's the only person in the military that's actually talked about it because they shut everybody up after that. But he said that he saw land beyond the Arctic wall that we haven't explored yet. You can only go to the tip of Antarctica, and it's actually, there's a little bitty ridge right here off of Australia, and you can literally take an Antarctic cruise to that, and you can take a little thing, but you're going to that little bitty tip in Antarctica. You can't go. Yes, thank you, Cool Channel. Exactly, like he said it right after I did. There's a little tip there, and it's actually, there's also another part of here called Rothschild Island. I mean, that's kind of funny, right? Misty, dear, you don't have to, the flat earth wall, the wall is everywhere, everywhere. Look it up. Look up ice wall in Antarctica. Literally, there's ships at the bottom of the ice wall, and they're building huge cranes to pull the ships up the ice wall. Have you heard of Operation Fishbowl? You really need to look up some government experiments and operations, Misty. I think that you have really need to look at the government stuff, because if you don't, I mean, of course, I don't care if you believe me or not. And I didn't believe like a lot of the scientific stuff that I don't care if the scientists tell me. Then you look at what the government is saying about the ice wall and Antarctica and the treaties and what goes on down there. So, yeah, don't come to my channel telling me to shut up. Be gone. Shoo. Bye. Okay. Two new beers. It's funny. Yeah. So, like I said, there's CIA documents that you can look at that talk about how their CIA experiments are run off of the trajectories all dependent on a fixed and unmoving planet. Operation Fishbowl. Actually, they had to stop doing their nuclear testing because they found out it was within the dome. So. Yeah. So anyway, you guys, like I said, just, look into it. Honestly, I'm not, like I said, I'm not here to like convince anybody. I just wanted a good conversation. I didn't want to be called like, horrible names or anything. Like, that's on you. But Mike and Fodor, I will absolutely look at the links that you guys put, because I do want to look at those links. I do want to have some more information, because like I said, if you guys present something to me, that's the only way. That's exactly how I became a flat earther, though, because I would be presented with something and I would look at it. And I would look at their research and I would say, okay, so this is what they're saying, and it sounds totally legit. Like, this could be legit. But then I also look up something to counter that, and then something back to counter that. It's like a match of experiments and research back and forth. Mm-hmm. And how do some rivers flow backwards, right? So it's just how there's so many questions that cannot be answered, even by the scientists. Because I mean, I honestly I believe that a lot of the scientists actually know the truth, but they're also in on the lie. And I believe a lot of it has to do with their brotherly ties. I'm not going to go into the organizations, but every single astronaut belongs to the exact same organization. You know, like almost every single upper member of government belongs to this same organization. Almost every single person in history that based their science off of a heliocentric model is a member of the organization or a grandfathered version of it. Okay, Mike, that's cool. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would. And then you look at the pyramids in Egypt. What about the pyramids in Egypt? No. So yeah, and so like I said, I mean, honestly, and I asked my phone the other day, my Siri, what shape was the Earth, and it said it was a sphere, but was it said a word that meant like they were flattened at the top, at the north and south poles. So it literally told me, literally, if you ask, I asked Siri, my phone's on Clapper right now. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take my phone off of Clapper. So if you're on Clapper, I have the least amount of followers on there. So Clapper, y'all, thank you so much. You have a great night, and I'm going to use my phone for a little bit of stuff here. So thank you guys. So, all right. But yeah, so got that off of there. And then I was going to look up, okay, brain fart. I was going to look up something. Oh, yeah, okay. Let me ask it. What shape is the Earth? Come on, say it. What shape is Earth? So it's got like 4 different exclamations on here. Sphere, oblate sphere, and geoid. So I'm trying to get her to say what she said the other day. What shape is the Earth? It's not doing the same thing it was the other day, but it does say sphere, oblate sphere. But of course, if it's an oblate spheroid, that's my question. If it's even a possibility on Google that the Earth is an oblate spheroid, how can there be pictures from space of perfect spheres? Like, those are questions I want answered. Why did Universal Studios in the 1920s have an exact model of the globe Earth from space without us being in space, but it turned out looking like the exact same globe model we had after they went to space? Why did they have to have a movie producer producing the moon landings? And at the end, the same movie producer put a Bible verse talking about the firmament on his headstone as like his last request. XL Diamond, you're awesome. So maps were drawn without being able to be seen from space because people actually tracked the land. But like I said, that only shows you a flat map. Okay, so even flat maps before we had satellites and airplanes and aerial photography and stuff like that were only guesses. So if you look at the maps from the 1500s, they're close. They're close, but they're not quite, right? Because the shape's a little bit different. The lines are a little bit different. The sizes of the continents might be a little off and look a little wonky compared to what we know today. And because we know this today, because we have aerial footage and photography that we didn't have before. So we're way more accurate now. And plus, we know people fly over the continents all the time in airplanes. So you can't really get it wrong. But before, they only did foot and boat. So they had to go exactly along the land and chart the maps as to where they believed their boat was on these lands. And some of them did a really good job. Like they didn't mess up very much. But from the 1920s, by only using flat maps to perfectly make a globe when you had never even been to space. And again, if it's a perfect sphere, why are so many scientists claiming it's oblate? Those are so many questions that I have. Again, it's hypothesized though. Hypothesize. So if they use science to hypothesize what the Earth would look like, that's awesome. So those scientists were so perfect in their hypothetical calculations that it perfectly lined up with exactly what it looked like from outer space to the next United States space mission. But then when Russia went up, it looked a little different. And then when Japan went up, it looked a little different. And then when China went up, it was a little bit different from that. None of them match. None of them match. They're all a little bit different. None of them are the same. Let me see something here. Okay. Sorry guys, I'm doing something here real quick. Yeah. So I don't know, this is my first on YouTube here. There we go. So a couple of people that were being nasty are no longer available. All right. So you all can be ugly all by yourselves. I can't see you anymore. Well, Ted, I mean, he says if 10 people took a pic of the same apple, would every pic be the same? Every pic wouldn't be the same. But if that same 10 people with 10 different cameras took 10 pictures of the same apple and they were walking around the apple taking pictures of it all the way around, there should be a perfect overlay of those 10 images where one could correlate the other perfectly. So the colors would be similar, right? Maybe not the same because some cameras have a different red hue than other cameras might have a red hue. So that's fine. But I'm talking about sizes and shapes and stuff like that. If they were taken from the same distance, every camera was taken from the same distance and the same zoom and the same resolution, okay? There shouldn't be that many different versions of it. There shouldn't be that many different versions. Okay, that's an optical illusion, tricks with our eyes. But see, it's not really tricks with our eyes. It's not tricks with our eyes. And as technology improves, the results should get more accurate. You're absolutely right. So if the theoretical physicists and mathematicians are talking about Earth being an oblate spheroid, why are all the pictures from outer space still perfect spheres? And they're not pictures from outer space, obviously. And like I said, if you get to the metadata down below the photographs, you'll see that they're not photographs. They're actually computer-generated images. They're images based off of data that they say that they were given by satellites and computers, and they just use that data in order to create the image the best they could because they're very well-trained computer artists is what their explanation is. Macabre says, I'm just listening to you guys dialogue about the subject. I honestly wish I could pay $1 million and take a personal flight to see for myself. Honestly, I would love for somebody to be able to actually show like real footage. But the closest thing we have is just regular people sending their own little rockets up into space. And if you look, some of those rockets get over 100,000 feet. And they're not fisheye lenses. So that's the cool part. Like, so if you want to look up some of those rocket launches, they have audio and cameras on these rockets, and they're the coolest thing ever. And they go 100,000 feet in the air. Well, the quartz is another story. That's a whole other monster right now, because then you're getting me back into politics, and that'll be like 5 more hours. Because the courts were trained under the corporation and not the republic. So that's another story. Well, actually, I can show you. Let's see, I'm going to go over here. Anyways, this hamster that powers my single living brain cells. Right. On January 6th, I wasn't there. I was like, what was January 6th? Oh, yeah. No, I was at home. I was watching. Everything happened. Well, you could tell me that why you think the Earth looks like a sphere, but then I also want to know why they say it is an oblate spheroid that's smaller at the top and larger at the bottom. But every image that comes from space shows us a perfect sphere. But yeah, again, go ahead. And then let me see if I can find this here. And it probably will be a video if I find it. All right. I didn't even have to put the whole thing in. I put 3 words in and it finished it for me. I must not be the only person. Okay. Oh, and you guys, come on. You guys have heard about the moon rocks that were given out to other countries, right? They gave moon rocks to, I don't know what country it was, but then they did like a test on it, ended up being petrified wood. That's not, you guys can look that up. It's legit. And now the other moon rocks that they had are gone. They're missing. I'm looking, I'm trying to find something I was trying to find earlier for you guys. And then erasing moon landing tapes. They said they couldn't find them. They might have taped over them. Who tapes up? OT, who tapes over that stuff? If you were shown a perfect sphere and a spheroid with the oblateness of the Earth, you would not be able to tell the difference. But see, they said, like, even the thing is it says it's an oblate spheroid. An oblate spheroid, like it's a sphere, but slightly oblate. Smaller at the bottom, but wider, or smaller at the top, but wider at the bottom. That was what Neil deGrasse Tyson's explanation, right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. All of the images are perfect circles or perfect spheres that they're showing. I don't do tarot. I don't believe in tarot. Yeah, I believe that if you mess with powers that were not given to you by God Himself, that you are stealing, and that if you think that God doesn't know that you're using a power that doesn't belong to you or that wasn't given to you in the first place, you're mistaken. So I believe that if we have gifts of premonition, if we have gifts of divinity, if we have gifts of prophecy, those are given to us by God Himself and only through the Holy Spirit. And when they're given to us through God Himself, through the Holy Spirit, then they're amplified and they become superpowers. But no, I don't believe. I believe tarot works, and I believe that there's a reason, there's something behind it. But I don't believe in doing it myself. But see, then you say a perfect sphere and a spheroid with the oblateness of Earth are indistinguishable. But they've been teaching us since we're babies that it's a perfect sphere, and every globe that we have is a perfect sphere. And if you shoot, sorry, my brain's getting mushy. Every damn, latitude and longitude. Damn, I don't even can't remember. Anyways, your latitude and your longitude, it all lines up like a perfect sphere. It doesn't show oblateness in it. Well, on its axis of rotation, right? So as it's spinning, right? They say that it kind of pulls out more in the middle because of the way it's spinning. But then our Earth's gravity is so sensitive that the moon can literally change the pull of our oceans. That's weird. Doesn't make sense. Okay, this guy says, well, everybody said that the Earth was a perfect sphere, right? Every globe that we have in every classroom is a perfect sphere. Well, it doesn't make sense because if it's an oblate spheroid, and if it's constantly oblate, right? If it's constantly like more bulgy in the middle, because of the rotation, which would make sense that it would bulge you more in the middle because that's how it would be spinning. But then if it's rotated, then I can see the bulginess there, but then you have your moon, and the moon would be causing it to bulge out in other places depending on where the moon was, because the moon is what causes high tide, and high tide is what pulls the tides in and out and causes the moons to, or the tides to rise and fall, and the ocean, the water levels. Well, hi, Peter. You're a heliocentrist. That's awesome. That's good though. 27 miles wider. So it said 2 plus 7 is 9. Gotta love it, right? Yeah, you couldn't see that, but you are supposed to be able to see the curvature of the Earth, right? Was it 8 inches per square mile? 8 inches per square mile. And we can't see 8 inches per square mile. They build railroads for thousands of miles, and they don't make the adjustment on the tracks. They build bridges. They don't make the adjustments. It's 8 inches per square mile. So that's your curvature, and that's another thing I have a difficulty with is curvature. Because if it's there by their math, it's 8 inches per square mile. So we should be able to see that easy. Well, it's not entirely a new topic, it's part of it. But that's what I'm saying. Here's the thing. If I were going to tell somebody something and I told them one thing, but then they're like, well, I don't think that's true because this person said this thing, and they're going to be like, okay, well, that person's right, but only a little bit right. So you can't really tell that they're right, but so we're both right. That's the point of it. Like you can tell somebody it's 27 miles wider at the equator pole to pole, but again, that's hypothetical. And even if it's mathematical, they haven't proven it. It's like, where are they teaching this then? Where are they teaching this? When did that information come out? When people started realizing there was something wrong? That's what I'm saying. And you said, how can people see that? That's why I changed the subject, because if people can't see that it's 27 miles wider because our Earth is so freaking big, then, but we're supposed to be able to see the curvature. That's my thing. So you're saying it's people don't know it's a sphere because, or oblate spheroid, because the oblateness isn't enough to not know that it's a sphere to the naked eye. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, belief is easy. And do as you're told. That's, and you guys know our school system was literally built by people who were trying to make us into little machines, little factory workers. They literally said they didn't want people to be free thinkers. They taught us something that they wanted us to learn to set an agenda. And now so many people are trying to learn different things, and there's so much division and dissension right now because people are learning things that are different from what we are being taught, right? So Mike says, I got to go to bed, but I hope at some point you look at the scientific evidence. Don't just pick and choose science. I don't just pick and choose. Like I will absolutely look at your links that you sent, and I will absolutely go through those and with a fine tooth comb. Like I really am hungry for information. So I just came on here to let you guys know, like and this is my first time on here with some of you guys, with all of you guys probably, so you don't really understand where I'm coming from with all this. But when it comes to researching stuff, like I research and I research and I research, and when I think I'm trying to prove somebody right or wrong, I will not let it die until I'm completely convinced one way or the other. And that's the same thing that's how I was with the flat Earth. So I'm not a scientist. I just research the shit out of stuff. Yeah, by the repeat after me method, you're right. Well, no, you said that the oblateness was false. That's just something you said. Like I haven't researched it, so I can't give you a concession on it because I haven't researched it myself. And only when I research it myself can I concede that that's what it says. So I appreciate you telling me that. So now that I can look it up, but you're not going to get a concession until I can look it up for myself and confirm it one way or another. But I do appreciate you telling me the information. Absolutely. Cool channel. Oh. That was funny. Okay. Flat earthers and essential oils and crystals. No, I mean, no. I think, well, see, here's the thing. And it's just funny because you say the crystals and oils and stuff like that. Like, I do love my organite and stuff like that. But you also have to look at the science behind that, right? Because there's also doctors and scientists. Wilhelm Reich was a wonderful scientist, and he was actually curing people of cancer. And he had some really cool inventions, and the government got wind of it, and they put him in prison. They confiscated all of his research and his work, and he died in jail. So, there's so many questions. It's like, if these people, and there's so many people who invented technology like hydrogen cars and cars that run on water and trash, and all of these people have had their research confiscated and they've disappeared. When Nikola Tesla died, right? Donald Trump's uncle was one of the people in the CIA that was assigned the task of taking Nikola Tesla's research and seeing if there was anything viable in it. And I think 3 of the trunks ended up missing. Like, these aren't just like theories. These are things that actually happened. And so I saw this guy the other day on, I think it was on TikTok or something. But anyways, he created a car that actually creates hydrogen and powers the car. And it's the coolest thing, right? I've seen this before a couple times. And it's so sad that so many of the people on the comment section were like, dude, watch your ass. Be careful. You shouldn't be putting this on here. The government's going to come find you. Instead of being like, yeah, cheering for the people, because they know what happens to people who think for themselves and who come up with stuff that is going to free us of our bondage to fossil fuels and, these government programs. People know, we just keep quiet because we're afraid somebody's going to get hurt. And that's sad. There are experts like myself from all kinds of areas. They look into this one the same way. And, and there's also videos of, and I say videos because that's what we have, of pilots admitting that the Earth is flat. And like I said, the trajectory data, if your equidistant maps are totally different from your maps that were given in school, or even the maps that you can buy. Like, I got maps, my son's homeschooled, so we have a lot of maps here, but the flat maps that were given are different than the actual sizes and distances of the continents that are true compared to what they put on a map. Like, they're distorted. So people grow up thinking certain continents are smaller or bigger than other ones, and it's not true. Well, I know, as a photographer, I understand where you're coming from. But like I said, and I'll look into what you're saying about the oblateness at 27 miles. But again, it's a number. Like, okay, so we're in space is a vacuum, right? There's nothing in space. It's a total vacuum. So there's no air. There's nothing to put. There's no combustion. There's nothing to push off of in outer space at all because it's a vacuum. But it's anti-gravity vacuum. Which, if you guys understand what a vacuum is scientifically, there's nothing in there. Like, right, there's nothing. It would be a free fall. So, but it's anti-gravity. So somehow it's anti-gravity and a vacuum. But it's a vacuum, but there's no container. So if there's no container and it's a vacuum, then how does anything have propulsion? Because what's it pushing off of and through if there's no air? If it's a vacuum. Okay, Mike, if space is not a total vacuum, then what is it? Because we were told the vacuum of space, like, forever. Well, Mike's challenged me to read nothing but globe Earth or heliocentric research for the next week. So, but see, here's the thing: I've got to go back and forth because I'll be like, oh, this is good stuff, and then I got to go over here, oh, this is good stuff, and it's got to be ping pong. It's got to be informational ping pong. Like, it's got to go back and forth. There's got to be a rally. And then so Ian says, of course, it's a number. I have a degree in optical physics. Oh, no, Cool Channel says, I have a degree in optical physics. I could make the lenses in your camera. So tell me about these photos. And Ian says, ballers. Are you flat earthed? Yes, I am flat earthed. Cool Channel says, sorry for suggesting you're the architect of the state of the world, Ian. The rocket pushes off the fuel expelled out of the nozzle. Okay, the rocket pushes off the fuel. Okay. So if the rocket is pushing off of the fuel expelled out of the nozzle, you're still pushing off of something because the fuel has to push against something to propel it forward. But if there's nothing to propel against, like if there's no density, nothing in the air, what's the fuel pushing off of to get this to project forward? That's what I'm saying. I believe COVID is I've had it. I believe it's real. Someone on Twitch asked me what my opinion of COVID was. Totally off the flat earth subject, but we can go there. Yes, but okay, so he said fuel is a mass. Okay, fuel is a mass, but a mass, even if a fuel is a mass, like they can dump whatever they want out there, but a mass still has to push up against something to propel something else forward. Like it has to be pushing off of something. There has to be something to push off of here. So they can dump everything all they want. It should just be like in outer space, right? But you're saying it's propelled. For something to be propelled, it's got to have some kind of like density in the air. So fish don't know they're in water because they're used to the water. We don't realize that we're in a substance. But when you move your hands like this really fast, you feel the air. You can blow and feel it push against you because we have some type of density to the air that we're living in within our dome, right? And we have propulsion. We can push off. We have oxygen. We have combustion. We have all of that here. But in outer space, it's supposed to be a vacuum. And if it's supposed to be a vacuum and you're telling me it's pushing off of the mass of the fuel has to be pushing against something to propel this forward. Okay? But this can't be pushing against something if there's nothing. That's the point. The vacuum is nothing. Yeah, but you're saying that is what moves the rocket. But that's still, if this dumps this to push this out, this has to be pushing off of something to propel this to something else. But if it's a vacuum and this can't push against something like the density in our air like we have here, then how does this move? But you just said fuel is mass. Fuel is mass. I get that. Space Force is under the Department of the Navy. That's funny. Nothing like training for spacewalks in a pool. Nothing like seeing bubbles in outer space and rats climbing on the space station. I don't know if y'all saw that. Okay, that made a chuckle. Do flat earthers and such that do person. Okay, but yeah, so someone on Twitch did ask me what my opinion of COVID was. I'll go on that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's got a thrust. If it's going to thrust, it's got to thrust against something. And we also know that rockets have thrusters. If they have thrusters, they have to thrust. They have to thrust against something. Something's got to have density in order to support the thrust. And if space is a vacuum, it doesn't have any air or density for it to thrust off of. And I understand how rockets can actually, if they did the engine right, they could have, my son, they could have things mixing in order to create the flame, because I was going to say there's no oxygen in outer space, and I understand how certain engines can work and they can actually inject it, which is dangerous, but they can do it. But you still have to have something for it to thrust off of, right? Like you'd have to. No, I swear, Ian, like seriously, look it up. I might even be able to find it. There's like, they have these spacewalks, and during these spacewalks, there was a little rat climbing on the spaceship. It was weird. I mean, I'm not, they're like, you can see it. Okay, so I'm gonna look at here. If you were in space, free floating, and had a lead weight and push the weight in front of you, you would, but see, that's what they say. But how does that work? How does that work? That's what they tell us is what would happen in space. But if space is a vacuum, scientifically, if there's nothing to thrust off of, how is there, because I know we don't have gravity in outer space, but if it's a vacuum, how are we so buoyant then? If it's a vacuum, so in a scientific laboratory, if you see, because they have like vacuum tubes, I know you've probably seen them, Ian, if you kind of know what I'm talking about. There's vacuum tubes. And they have tubes, and they create a perfect vacuum within these tubes. And within those tubes, you drop a feather and it goes straight down. Straight down. There's nothing supporting the feather. It goes straight down like a bowling ball because it's a vacuum. There's no lack of gravity. There's no flying or anything like that. It's a straight up freaking vacuum. Everything drops right to the bottom of the vacuum, including a feather. So if you're in outer space and you're floating, but it's a vacuum, how does that work? Well, Michael, you can call me a stupid dummy globehead, but if you can't explain to me how you can have a vacuum without a container and how the space is a vacuum, but you can float in it, but when they try to reproduce a vacuum in a laboratory and everything sinks to the bottom of the vacuum space, how does that work? Pools on Earth. Science has built a house of cards. It's all got to come down. Like I said, the entire piss. Okay, that's great. Nice. My son is putting on a show here for me on the other end of the other side of the window. No, Ripster, I haven't actually. He's asking if I heard of any studies on flat Earth by Bernie Gorse. I haven't, but when I'm done, I'm going to look at all of these links and all of this information, because when I come on here, it's because I want more questions to answer. Like, I want more things to research. And this was the one I picked right now because I've been doing so much government stuff lately. Like, literally, it's making my head hurt. Government and FEMA and NESARA and like all of the world. Yeah, anyway, I've been doing a lot of that lately. The science isn't perfectly sound. And honestly, isn't it just odd how most of the numbers end up in sixes when it comes to the breakdown of the speeds and the size and everything like that? But if science is perfectly sound, why can't they reproduce the stuff? That's what I want to know. Why can't they reproduce the vacuum if they say it's a vacuum? You know, why? Like I've seen, like I said, wrecked my head watching vacuum experiments in laboratories, and then it's totally not correlating with anything they tell us about outer space. And then one other thing, it's just a theory of mine, and I know everybody's like, oh, theories, but I'm telling you right now, this is not something I read anywhere. This is just a theory of mine. Have you guys ever watched the rockets take off? And the big white billowy clouds that come from the thrusters from when right before the rockets come up? That's the exact same sound and the exact same thing that happens when they make clouds, the cloud machines. So you can look up the cloud machines. They actually buy farms and they buy up hundreds of acres around these cloud machines because they're so loud, and they create clouds. It looks exactly the same. Like I said, I'm just something I'm going to look into, but I was just going to throw it out there. Do I like Elon Musk? I used to, but I don't. I don't. Not anymore. Yeah. Denial is a very strong force. So, I mean, question, do you guys believe in aliens too? And if you believe in aliens, have you ever actually seen one? Or have you ever actually only seen pictures that the government leaked about aliens? Or what people told you when they got abducted by aliens? Does that sound crazy that people get abducted by aliens, but NASA confirms that they're aliens, but then they're kind of not aliens, but then there are aliens, but that's a fact because it's science, and maybe it isn't science, but the government said it was, so maybe we should believe in aliens anyway? I'm just saying. You say there's no proof of aliens, but I don't believe in aliens for one, but I'm just saying, devil's advocate here. But they just released all of these documents from the CIA about extraterrestrial life forces, and all of the footage they're releasing now about extraterrestrial the footage of things flying in front of the moon and stuff from the spaceships and things that they've taught. And then they've also been in contact with these beings. Israel, that guy from Israel who was in charge of their space program, just came out and said that they've been in contact with these aliens for many decades, and they've only been waiting for the right time to come forward. because humanity wasn't ready. These are people who are working the highest levels of these governments, and they're claiming the aliens exist. So you're going to tell me you don't believe that part of it, but you believe that we're on a ball because NASA said so. But they also say the aliens exist now, but you don't believe that. How can you pick and choose? It's like somebody picking and choosing what part of the Bible they want to obey. Come on now. But you say there's way more evidence of aliens than flat Earth, right? You say that, but who told you there were aliens, and what evidence is there of aliens? Who has all the evidence of aliens? The people who are writing the story. You know, that's it. The people who are writing the books are the ones telling you it exists. And honestly, $19 billion a year is what they get right now for NASA, and they're probably going to get a lot more now that we have a Space Force. That's a pretty good motivation to keep up a lie. I'm just saying. And then not to mention the entire world would probably revolt if they knew the truth. Intelligent people saying they saw things. So every single person that said that they believe the earth is flat is unintelligent, including the people who did the explorations. So, I mean, just saying, like, there were admirals and there were explorers who actually went up and saw this with their own eyes and gave their own accounts, but they're discredited because the government said that they should be discredited. So we listen to them because the government said so. And Kubrick, okay, let's go into that one. Isn't Kubrick the one that did the moon missions? And then he also did Space Odyssey. And it's funny how they got the exact same guy who did the space movies to do the moon landings. That's odd. I'm just saying. Why would they get Hollywood in on it when they were just up on the moon? Why would they need Hollywood? Why would the Apollo missions have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame for production? It's not. It should be science, right? Why would they get a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame? All right. Well, you guys, one admiral. Well, you have a Gus Picard, and then you have Admiral Byrd. Those are the two. And then after Admiral Byrd came forward, they shut him up. I'm not Kathy, but okay. Okay. Let's see. I've read almost every single one of these books. My newest ones, though, are I haven't read A Brave New World yet. That's one. Nutrition and Diet Therapy. I've gone through that one, but I haven't read it cover to cover. I've read this one cover to cover several times. It's the books of Enoch. It's all three books of Enoch. It's the there's all three of them in there. It's got the Hebrew, the Slovakian one, and the Ethiopian one, and they're all pretty cool. With the Kerner Report, this thing is really cool. If you guys want to know anything about communism and how the government is manipulating people, it's a really good one. I also have this one by Banning Johnson. It's called Color, Communism, and Common Sense. It's almost all an excerpt from the Kerner Report, which is still pretty cool because it's like a smaller version of it. This one is the Communist Manifesto. Know your enemy, people. You can't know who you're dealing with unless you know what books they play by. Okay? And that's why you got to learn both sides of everything. The science, the everything. Some guy in an old boat. No, he wasn't just in a boat though. He was on an aerial mission. That they had boats too after that. But I have read Biogeometry Signatures cover to cover. Back to a Future for Mankind. I have not read that one yet. Tuning the Human Biofield. I've actually been practicing that for several years. And Eileen McCusack is the author, and she has several videos. She's super freaking awesome. She was a doctor first. And then Hebrew for Dummies, because I don't speak fluent Hebrew yet. Candle smells like palm water. You guys are so freaking nice. All right. Mm-hmm. Oh, no, it's not a chimney. I have a sunroom. My house is 111 years old. and I'm in a sunroom, and that's one of the corner pillars of my sunroom. So these are glass windows, and these are glass windows, and I have four, actually three pillars. So no, it's not a chimney in the middle of my house, but it looks like it, right? No, it's just a pillar. It's not haunted. No, no, I love it. I love my house. I love my old creaky, spooky old house. It's nice. I'm a home improvement contractor too. So I'm a carpenter and I build stuff. And I prefer old houses to the new ones because they're so cookie cutter, and they had way more pride in their work 100 years ago than they do now. A lot of the houses these days are falling apart. The contractors slap them together for the cheapest dollar. They get the lowest bidder to come in and do all the work. And it's crap. So these old houses are beautiful, and they're put together with so much skill and precision, and the craftsmanship is amazing as long as they're taken care of. So no, I love my old house. The photos of Antarctica are just the coast of the photos of the ice wall are just the coast of Antarctica. Exactly. That's exactly what the ice wall is. It's Antarctica. It's called the Arctic Circle. Yep. You can't go anywhere you want in Antarctica. There's literally a tip. Like if you look at it, there's a little tip off of there, and that's where you can go. You can't go anywhere you want in Antarctica. Okay. My sweater's falling off. Nah, it's got a strap. Okay, guys, it is 11 o'clock. I've been on since 8, or it's a little after 11. I've been on since 8, and I got to go because I'm at Pacific time, so it's only 11 here, and some of you guys are probably on from other places. I've been going for a little over 3 hours now. But Veritas Trismegistus, gravity is dielectric magnetic inertia. You are the winner tonight. I don't know what you win, but that was the best answer. Antarctica is the size of the continental USA and Canada combined because Antarctica isn't a little bitty continent. It's this whole white circle. See? The whole white circle. And it's a flat, and they put it over a ball, and the Antarctica is a little rectum at the bottom of the ball, and they cinch it all together and made it look like one little continent down there. But it's the whole circle. That's why different parts of it, that's why they don't really want you flying back and forth, because you go to certain continents that are closer to the wall than other continents are. So if you wanted to fly to Antarctica from the east coast of the United States, you would have to hit another continent before you can bounce off and get to the wall. You can't just go straight there. It's crazy. So someone said gravity is dielectric magnetic inertia, which is what I believe it is. I just didn't have the words for it, but that's what it is. Superconductors are able to void the field. That's why they can be gravity. And so, and I know a lot of this is like a lot of people aren't into a lot of this stuff, but the Earth is, Eleni says it's dielectric magnetic inertia. If you see how the Earth recharges itself, and how like there's the sprites. I don't know if you guys are familiar with sprites in the atmosphere, but they literally, if you look at photographs of the sprites, you can literally see the dome that they come off of. The sprites recharge, the clouds recharge, the oceans are recharged. It's all electric and magnetic, and it all creates, like, it's a generator. It's a big, beautiful generator and filter for the Earth and for our air. Okay, so he says, here's my problem with flat Earth. If you use the image on that book and put the sun directly above a spot on the equator, it would be noon at the location below it. Yeah, it'd be noon at anywhere below it. Well, no, but that's, he said the pointing at a book isn't the same. You're right, it's not. That's just the only map I have right now of it, and I'm trying to answer a question. You help pay and I'll go. You know, like seriously, look up and see about explorations and trips and stuff to Antarctica. And then they'll let you look like you're going to book a trip to Antarctica. I have actually tried this one. You look like you're going to book a trip to Antarctica for flights and stuff like that, and then it will not be available. Like it literally will say unavailable. This flight is unavailable. And I've tried that a couple times, and it's been like 2 years since I've done it, but that's one thing I have done. You can't take cruises, right? Alaskan and Antarctic cruises, but you're only going to that little tip. You can't go to the rest of it. Like if you wanted to go to a different part of it, they won't let you. There's a certain tip that you can go to and you can see the ice walls and stuff like that. But it's only a small little section of it. Yeah, there have been a couple exploratory missions by people who were non-government and didn't have permission, and they were met with authority. Antarctica, actually, that's the fun part, the 24-hour sun in the winter. The sun moves in a circuit over the earth. Okay, I have to hit that. Okay, well, I don't use drugs, actually. I have, and he's just asking if I'm an essential oils, hippie, drugs, all that stuff. No, I'm not actually. I was very into the medical and pharmaceutical stuff because I have 3 chronic illnesses. I've had 13 surgeries. I had 2 surgeries in the past year, and if it were up to the doctors, I would be on 10 different medications. But because I didn't want to become a zombie, and in all honesty, my sister died 5 days ago of a pill overdose, and I never wanted to end up like that. So I do not take pills. I do not take drugs. I do like CBD, and I do like cannabis medication sometimes, but for muscle spasms and irritable bowel disorder, because I have bowel disease, and it really helps with the spasms. So no, I don't do all those drugs or anything like that. And I'm really more into a holistic approach. But that's why it's so important to understand how the earth works and how our bodies work and how it all works together and how God made us like so amazing and made our planet so amazing and our bodies so amazing. So I'm reading a couple more of these and then I got to go, guys. Okay. Yeah, like he said, he never would have guessed. Like a lot of people don't, but like I said, if anyone even knew how thick my medical folder was on all the stuff that I've been through and the stuff that had happened, I should be laying up on disability, not being able to do anything. But I fight every day to get up and do what I do. Yeah. New passages wouldn't open about the ice melting. And so just real quick with the ice melting. Okay, I know like the government's claiming like global warming and stuff like that, but there is proof, okay, not just theory, there's scientific proof that they are messing with our weather. They've been modifying our weather since the 60s. And now Bill Gates has teamed up with Harvard to block out the light of the sun and for global warming purposes or something like that. And then they've been spraying barium and strontium and aluminum into the air. So, and these are proven. You can find the documents on this stuff. So if they're saying that it's our fault, like us, like regular consumers, because we're just too many people on this earth and we're putting too much methane into the air and it's causing global warming, do you not think that throwing chemicals up in the sky that are seeding clouds, because they do cloud seeding all over the place too, right? So if they're seeding clouds, what do they do when they're seeding clouds? They're putting chemicals into the clouds, which pull the moisture out of the air and put the moisture into the clouds. So their clouds are heavier and retain more moisture and to rain faster is what they do when they seed clouds. So if they're seeding clouds and they're pulling moisture out of the air, dry air, it doesn't make sense. Like, you know, I think their weather modifications and their HAARP systems is what's causing the catastrophes and what's causing global warming, if there even is global warming. Climate change. Yeah, there's climate change because they keep freaking with the weather. Let me see, I'm reading a couple more. So many conspiracy theories. There are a lot. The Four Corners, like I said, they're the Four Corners of the Earth. And if you, like I said, the older maps from like the 1500s will show, they don't do the North Pole anymore on maps, go figure. But the older maps showed that there were 4 channels, like 4 waterways and 4 land masses that actually divided up into the 4 of the Earth. It's pretty cool. Lasers starting fires. Yeah, directed energy weaponry is a big thing now. And it's just, you guys, they're screwing with us so bad. So, I mean, like I said, when it comes to global warming, I know you said about melted ice and stuff like that. And I think the whole thing about melting glaciers is funny, because if you have a glass of ice water and the ice melts, it doesn't raise anything. It's crazy. Reference in many old books about Old North, that North was in a different spot. Yeah, well, look, but I mean, they're now the same in the same maps. The continents are in the same places as they were on the older maps, but now they're omitting that center point for some reason, and that's, you know, like the theoretical like island of Moreau or the Mount Moreau, right? So it's just a lot of stuff going on. All right, guys, you are awesome, and I enjoyed most of you tonight. Everyone who's still here, you guys are awesome. Even if you disagree with me, that's fine. That's why I don't want an echo chamber. Like, I don't want to argue. I want to share information. If you guys have information for me, and if anything I can share with you, that's great. It's okay if we didn't, if I didn't change anybody. It's okay if you didn't change my mind. That's okay, because see, these are the things that we need to have. We need to be able to have and respect an open dialogue. We need to be able to hear information from both sides and absorb it, but then also decide if you want to use it or not. Like, that's our critical thinking. That's what they're trying to keep us from doing. That's why their censorship is so bad right now. We should be able to have an open dialogue with people. We should be able to listen to other people, even if we don't agree with them. I want to hear what you have to say, even if you don't agree with me, because you know what? You know, maybe you know something I don't, and I may know something that you don't, and we may come to an agreement someday. So that's the point. So just don't feed into the division, and don't feed into the fact that we need to be in an echo chamber. Don't cheer for people when they're censoring people, even if you don't agree with what they say. You know, like, it's not okay. We don't need to have that division. So my biggest thing here in closing tonight is that keep an open dialogue, keep an open mind to people. It's okay to not agree with people, but at the same time, don't shoot somebody down or hate somebody or call them names just because you don't agree with them. You know, don't sit there and try to actually like bait somebody into being nasty to you. You know, like, why live that way? Why give in to that? Okay. And if you guys are, if any, I like know anything about like the energy and how they manipulate us. Okay. This is other stuff that just came out, and I've known this for a while, but this also just came out in the CIA disclosure that they understand that, they really can manipulate people, and manifestation is legit. Okay. Like I was saying earlier, you can manifest. Okay. It is a legit thing. Because like I said, in the beginning was God, or in the beginning was word. The word is sound, and sound is frequency. Frequency is vibration. So what God spoke, he created. Abracadabra is Hebrew for what I speak, I create. We are made in God's image. What we speak, we create. Okay. What we speak, what we create. Our intent is what we create. So I intend to speak to you guys about stuff that I know, and I intend to take on knowledge from you as well. And so I get information from you. And around the outside, right? but at the same time, this is all I'm saying. Just keep an open mind with people, keep an open dialogue. If someone disagrees with you, cool. You know, you ain't got to take it all. Just take it with a grain of salt. Thank you for your information. I appreciate the fact that you have an opinion of your own, and of your own free will, and of your own mind. And just God bless everybody, you know? Well, Ian, there's always a battle for good and evil, and we wrestle not with flesh and blood, but with powers and principalities of the air and heaven. So just depending on your translation of the Hebrew, it's just basically saying they know where the true battle is, and they are trying to keep the battle here between flesh and blood. That's not it, you guys. We're not humans trying to have a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience, and we need to remember where we came from. And so, we came from the source, the God, right? And it would be cruel to force anyone to do anything they didn't want to do. And that's why God gave us free will. Some people use it to be dicks, and that's just something you got to understand. That's how they want to use their free will. If I can help lean somebody, I don't have to lean you one way or another in the way you believe on flat earth and stuff like that. But if I can at least, show somebody it's okay, you can be kind and compassionate and disagree with somebody. I can absolutely have respect for somebody I can't stand. I can respect the fact that some people are really good at their jobs, but I don't like them. Let's say there's a surgeon, and he's a surgeon. He's a precision surgeon, and he's so good at what he does, but he's a dick. He has no bedside manner. I respect the fact that he's good at what he does. He doesn't have to be my best friend as long as he keeps me alive and does his job. And so that's what we need to understand about people, right? You can respect somebody and not like them. You can hear information and not agree with it. Oh yeah, I am definitely a believer, filled with the Holy Spirit, all that good stuff. Yeah. No, I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian, and I opened up tonight with several Bible verses that that correlate with flat Earth. Yep. I'm a Christian through and through. I am an ordained minister, and I've got 8 months left until I obtain my bachelor's of Bible study. And I've been studying a lot longer than that. I just finally decided to do the school and get the degree behind it because I want to go into grief counseling and ministry. I don't at church at home. I read my Bible all the time. Like I'm in my church basically is my Bible school because it's so many hours a week. I think I study 4 to 6 hours a week. So that's my church. And my family, I have some family here that are Christians. Yeah, this church. And just from experience with churches, like I've been going to churches since I was really little. My family's not religious, by the way. We never have been. And but I started taking myself to church and down the street from where I used to live when I was 6 years old, by myself to a Pentecostal church. You're right, Ian. You're absolutely right. Yeah. No, I can't. I don't like organized religion. I just can't anymore. I mean, the more you open up and the more you read your Bible and the more you realize how things are supposed to go in this world, when you read the Bible and you see what Jesus really intended for us, and then you go to church and you realize that most churches are a business, and they're not there for soul saving. Most of them. I've been to a couple really nice small churches that were really good churches, but as soon as the small churches start getting big, they're not good anymore. So those badass snake churches. Lots of dancing. And see, that's what I understand. I like the show in a church, I like, every once in a while you go and you get to go sing songs with people and stuff like that. It's like, the fellowship is nice. But at the same time, if you go to an hour and a half sermon, he's literally done 15, 20 minutes of the actual word. And the rest of it, Susie, last week when she had that bake sale, it was a testimony and I don't mind testimony. It's beautiful. Testimony is beautiful because we need testimony. We need fellowship. But at the same time, you go to church to receive the word, and most people don't crack their Bible unless it's a Sunday and they're in church. They're Sunday Christians, and that's not okay. I think when you go to church, you shouldn't have. You should learn the word, and he should preach more than 10 lines of the Bible. I mean, there's a lot of stuff there, Speaking in tongues for dummies, like I said, I started at a Pentecostal church when I was 6. I'm way ahead of you. Yeah. So, all right, guys, you've been awesome. And like I said, just keep an open mind with people. Thank you for your, for our ping pong tonight, back and forth. And I appreciate some of you keeping an open mind and the fact that we were able to exchange information without getting hostile. And I don't know what's up with the girls being such jerks. Like I had to block both of them. So I'm sorry. Like I was trying not to get all involved with that stuff because I'm not with the catty petty name calling stuff, and it was just really weird. But all of you guys have been awesome. Maybe, but all of you guys have been awesome, and I appreciate the fact that we're rallying back and forth with our brains, even if we don't agree with each other. That's really cool. So. You'll stay here endlessly. No, I'm not going to take off and let you stare at my wall for all night. So got my disco lights going. You guys like that? Okay, guys, you are awesome. I got to find the X though. Where did it go? Oh, here it is. All right, yeah, I'll be on again sometime. And like I usually do like a quick little commercial like on YouTube. I did this earlier today about, I'm going to go on tonight. We're going to talk about this. And this is probably one of the few times I'll talk about flat earth. Sometimes I do like full rabbit hole chats where I just talk about a bunch of different stuff. Lately it's been the government because there's been so much stuff going on with the government right now. So yeah, but there's just so much stuff going on with the government. So I was on that for a little bit. But like I said, I had a loss in my family earlier this week. So this is my first live since that. So I'm just trying to get back into it. So, all right, guys, nighty night. Thank you. Have a good night.